Neon lights and digital dreams, waking up to the sound of the machine. We're living fast on a circuit board, looking for a love we can't afford. Oh, can you feel the power surge on the edge of a sonic verge? High voltage
Hello there.
in the midnight air. Throw your hands up if you dare. Cyber heart burning bright, rocking through the electric night. Metal soul in a silicon cage. We're the masters of the digital age.
Previously on Death Stranding. The world ended, and I somehow became a delivery guy. After surviving the tutorial and first steps into the wastes, things got serious fast. BTS lurking in the rain, mules hunting me down for my cargo, and every delivery turning into a fight to stay upright. Somewhere in the chaos, I found a bridge baby, BB. My only way of sensing the invisible threats out there. Oh, and the president died. So naturally, I had to transport her body across the apocalypse. Now it's me, BB, and a whole lot of bad decisions, trying to reconnect what's left of America.
Neon lights and digital dreams, waking up to the sound of the machine. We're living fast on a circuit board.
Hey yo, what is happening? Happy Irish welcome, and dare I say, first look at you. You're the first one here, you absolute legend. Aye, so how's everybody's weekend going? Mine's has actually been going alright so far. I had a pretty chill day. I spent most of it napping, and as an old man, it's probably my favorite thing to do. And I kind of enjoyed the switch up, the Death Stranding there on Thursday night, so I've been looking forward to playing it again now. I'm going to aim to get my motorcycle today. That's what I'm going to go for, so we don't have to walk everywhere from now on. We'll get our motorbike sorted. Now, it's going to still be parts of it where if we haven't set up the network, there's going to be no roads. But I think I have a plan in my head of what I'm going to do there as well. So I think I'm going to put this on the permanent rotation as well with Death Stranding until we clear through it. So I'm excited about it. And I'm going to just jump straight into the game. We're not going to hook about here. We're just going to jump straight on. And we're loading the game. Get some monster on me, even though it's not sponsored by this game anymore.
Beginning scan. Scanning bridges ID. Verifying ID. Clear. All weapons will remain locked until departure. All clear.
I don't have any weapons. I don't know what to worry about. I was cutting the grass out watching Mall Shadowlord. I don't know what that is. What's Mall Shadowlord? I was supposed to cut the grass today, but I ended up I didn't really want to. So I will do it tomorrow. Tomorrow's still supposed to be dry. It's not as sunny, but it should stay dry. I got loads of washing done, if that counts. Just go in and like everybody's sign. Cost me nothing. Righto. Where am I going? Right, there's my motorbike, which I can't use yet because I can't charge the thing. New Star Wars show on Disney. Oh, so it's about Darth Maul. Okay, let's go. I don't want to take pictures. No, I don't want to do it. No, I don't want to do that. Where's my map? It's start, apparently. Right, so... What am I going back here for? Order number 5, construction post box. Alright, have to go back there then. What's this? What's this? It's Dingleberries. Hook, what's happening? Currently hotel bar at Mrs. Hook, so I can't hear feck all. Good evening. What is happening? What do you mean out in a hotel bar? Although he can't even hear me giving off. Look at him out socialising, spending time with his wife, the woman he loves, instead of sitting with random internet people. How dare he?
Sam, Tyro crystals are pretty small and can be difficult to spot with the naked eye.
Well, not that difficult. I can see ones in front of me. How's the audio anyway? Is it showing up okay?
Wider area, though, you might consider building a watchtower and relying on its sensors.
You might consider building a watchtower and relying on my sensors, motherfucker. Oh, this guy set up a ladder. What is it? FF Yux. Awesome. Awesome sauce. And this is what we're talking about. Whenever you get the network set up, you have people that will build stuff, so it makes it handy if you get across buses. Auto's fine. Sweet to the beat. That was the thing as well, although it was the main concern with my last game. I thought I was going to get copyright strikes. No, I did not. Went on YouTube and everything, fine. So, bit of a surprise, right, we're across here, because here's blue. I want to stick to this side, because I know that side has a bigger sort of mule area. And we'll keep going. Oh, did you see the thing as well with our Zero Tac Cash YouTube channel? McKellen, Spouchy, what's happening?
I remember getting blocked one time and joining the rob by an accident.
Exactly. Hook texted me about it the other night, and he's all, do you know that the actual official streamer bot people commented in one of our audios? And I was all, no way! And I went on, and right enough, they had. It was all lured. They're not streamer bots. Mel Studio. I was like, fucking check that, hey. You've collected enough Cairo crystals, you've collected enough for that. I could probably just pick more on my way over. Provided there's no beat. Oh, I can see them there. BTs. Which stands for Big Trutherfuckers. Okay, there's quite a few of them then. It's not ideal. Not ideal. Alright. I'm going to go up around the rocks to sneak around, because I have no idea where they are. Oh, wait, there's someone here. Where is he? Can't see him. He's a wee bit out of the way. We're going to get the Cairo crystals and continue on. Must be up there a wee bit. Right, oh, wait, there's someone else there. Oh, I can see you now. I can see you now. Oh, there's one over there. He's kind of blending under the rocks a wee bit. Right, just gotta keep it quiet. Stay away from them. Sneak around. Well, I don't know why I'm holding my breath. Hold your breath. Now, we've actually been quite lucky. We've made it through and not had to deal with actually getting caught with them yet. So you'll probably see that at some point as well. It's like this big muck appears underneath you and drags you under the ground and just like pulls you out. Right, hey. At this sort of, not boss area, but you fight a bigger one of the BTs. And at the moment, I am not equipped to take care of it. Ooh, what's this? Ooh, trucks and cars, cars and trucks. I think I've gone off on a tangent. I don't think I've gone the right way at all. Or have I? Someone has left me a sign. Ooh, I could cut across this wee mountain pass. Right, okay, we'll do that. That might be a better idea. Rather than going down by the water. We're going to go through mule territory anyway. I'm kind of hoping I don't have anything that's too... what they want. Oh, God. Right, let's get out of this rain as well. Nope. Auto kind of popped there a wee second. Don't know what that was. So sat this morning, I made a few new videos for the YouTube, and then I napped for most of the day, to be honest, and it was wonderful. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Just double checking the screen there to make sure I'm not covering up any of the UI with my face. Okay. Yeah, so grand week planned for next week as well. I'm on work Monday to Thursday, then off Friday, and off the following Monday, so get a good long weekend as well. Do 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 do. Don't need to be crouching. Alright, there is one of their sensor jobbies. I reckon as soon as I go on here, fucking do it. It's going to tell them where I am. Yeah. As long as I can stay clear of them. And they don't see me. Oh, he automatically knows where I am. Fuck. Right, run. Run! He's a big stick and I have sweet fuck all. Train isn't too bad. We can make it if we run. As long as I don't fuck it up, I'll be alright. Sounds like he's right behind me. See, at this stage, I have no weapons to fight them with as well. You get like bolo whips and stuff to get them. Oh, he's miles away. Jesus. Oh, there's a boy down there. Right, okay.
All the Arcs and another Northern Irish streamer.
Right?
Really funny, really cool.
Aww, oh mush. I'm at a wedding, can't hear you. Oh, you must have been. No way. I changed your walk on. But I heard, but I bet you heard that. I bet you, oh, I wish you had heard the thing I put on for you. At a wedding? Disgraceful. Disgraceful. Jesus, everybody's out tonight. It's a fucking busy night here on campus. I'm going to have to send that one to you then. I know you can't actually hear what I'm saying either. Jesus, people could be walking and going, what's the new thing that everybody's watching? Is it football? Is it basketball? Is it WWE? No, people are just sitting in bars watching the Orc stream Death Stranding.
Assuming you've got your PCC in order, head to the site I designated and build that post box, would you? You should have no trouble finding it if you check your map and compass from time
Wait,
to
do I have a
time.
PCC in order? Ooh, let's see. Let's see if we can drop some stuff off here if I can. Make delivery, deliver lost cargo. Right, let's go. All my stuff is getting badly broken. Private locker. We're going to take. Do I have one? Oh, I'll have a PCC there. Okay, I don't need another one. But this is the bit. You've reached the limit of the amount of cargo that can be entrusted to you. The fallen cargo was destroyed. Plant samples. What? What are we talking about?
Weapons restrictions lifted.
I don't know what happened, but I feel as though it was bullshit. It looks like a plant I can lift. Looks stealable or eatable. Resident Evil's taught me anything. So we should eat this.
There we go.
Sandalweed. Temporary footwear? That's called sandalweed, fair play. I need to go there. Right, okay. I don't know if you can see it on stream, but there's a faint black line just beside that thing. Righto. Right, we're going to climb down here. Ah, we got it. We got it. We got it. Don't worry, Sam. You got this. You got this, brother. Oh. Almost slipped on a rock. And there's a happy face. Why? Don't know why there's a happy face, but there just is. Ooh. Right. Oh Jesus! Look at the shit over here. This is where it wants me to build the thing. Oh, I know all about it. Resins for me, none for you. I like the fact that people actually mark this stuff as well. It's pretty cool. You know, they let you know if you're going in the BT territory and choose up for certain missions and stuff as well. I thought I was clicking that for...
Sam,
Right, okay.
I see you've arrived at the designated site.
Yes, I have.
Now then, ready your PCC and select post box. Build one within the area specified.
So ready my PCC and select... Postbox. Right, okay. Postbox. Postbox. There we go. We're Royal Mail now. Except more efficient. I can understand why they're doing this, but how much of a help is a postbox in the middle of a wilderness when monsters gonna be like?
Good work, Sam.
Don't have anything that I could deliver with there. No. Donate cargo and equipment to other players. Right, let's see. What other missions do we have? I don't think we have anything left here. I don't have to go back to Capital Knot City. Cairo crystals. I have to go back here and do this one. Maybe I wasn't supposed to come the whole way back here. Fuck. You know what? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We're running. We run along the avenue, but loaded to Aurora Borealis. Give me like. There we go. Thank you, buddy. Thank you, buddy. Alright, we just have to skip past all the mules again. And then, oh, the fucking BTs. Cargo container, ruined resins. Fucking rain. I also don't have the ability to repair containers yet. Which kind of sucks. Give out we personal like. Someone put... Oh, look at that. Happy days. They put them down first, so we can just ditter across the water. Sweet. And that's the thing as well. It's an automatic like if you use somebody's equipment too. And that's what she said. That's how dating started. You also seem to get little boosts as well if you like somebody's stuff, so that it's all positive. There's no negatives actually doing so. Right, we're out of the rain. I can see clearly now the rain is gone. All my equipment looks like shit. There's spray cans, there's repair cans you can get later on that will fix that stuff. But I don't know how to make them yet. His fatigue really isn't going down. Like this boy is belting. Alright, we're going back into mule territory now. It's gonna ping me. Let's see one of them over there. Oh, ping. There we go. There's one of them down there.
Goddamn cottonmouth.
We'll have a drink Bridges Energy. It was Monster Energy originally. Right, we're gonna get full up of juice. Hey, on which map are you? Oh, just the very first one. The very start. Very, very start. Look at what is happening. We're not long into the game. This is our second stream of it. I feel like I might just run up and just whack this boy. Or just run past him. He's not that quick, is he? Mule boots. Fucking fatty. Yeah, got your stuff. Run, Batman. Unlike this game, I actually am drinking Monster. Which is a bit of a shame. Must have been a licensing issue or something. I have to see about replacing my boots at some point. Well, no, they're still over halfway. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I wasn't even full sprinting there. Just kind of lightly jogging. Let's go! Lost cargo, disk-based media. Cool beans. And I see a post box right up in front of me. George Baton. Let's see if we can fire any of this stuff in. Make delivery, lost cargo. Yes. Pop that in there. Nicely job. I think it is better though if you do deliver to its destination. You've reached the amount of cargo that could be trusted to you. The following cargo was destroyed. This brings me there. Maybe I shouldn't be doing that then. Ooh, what's this? More stuff. More stuff. More interesting things are coming up. And I definitely know that, yeah. You're on the third map. Cool beans. Are you enjoying the game though? Are you liking it? It's a very underrated game, I think. There was a lot of hate when this game came out, and I think too many people just believed it. They're just like, oh, it's a walking simulator. It's so much more than that, and the combat and everything gets a lot more shit. Yeah, nice and relaxing. I find that as well. There's a lot of creepiness and suspense in it, but I'm enjoying it. But I think there was a couple of reviews where they just called it a walking simulator, and everybody just stuck with them. I think that they slow this shit down a wee bit. Because I am not equipped to deal with BTs. Let's get an idea where they are. You're there. There's no one directly in front of me as far as I can see. You can use... Yeah, I can do. I'd choose not to, though. Because if I just stay still for a second, I can see them anyway. Are you planning to play
7 minutes.
Oh,
7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you.
So you're only here for 7 minutes, Tomahawk? Ooh. Ooh. What is happening? Are you planning to play the second one as well? I finally got around to setting that up, Tomahawk, so it automatically shouts out high scores, high stakes when you come on the chat. Look at me
7 minutes. 7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you.
Why did that play a second time? You know what? It's fine. Josh, thank you very much. Racing Lurks, Josh, thank you so much for the sub. I hope you're doing well in the racing. I was on earlier when you were destroyed by that Mustang who fucking hit a wall and swung around and battered you on the way past. Ain't going to complain here. Right now, for some reason, it's continually just shouting out constantly. Right, hold on. I think I fucked up. I fucked up. I did fucked up. Right through the electric lights. did. Just put it back the way it was. Cool beans. Let's go. How am I doing? I'm doing great. I'm having a wonderful Saturday. I got up, did a couple of YouTube videos, and planned to do the garden, and then just didn't. But you know what? I had about 3 or 4 naps, and they were wonderful. One of them was on the sofa. There's something particularly special about a sofa nap. Itchy nose. Go fight with somebody. Come on, what about you?
We're going streaking!
7 stream streak. Wow.
Into the gymnasium! Come on, everybody!
All my cargo's getting ruined. It's me. I think that's a building. Happy days, right in front of me. Cool beans. 7 streams, 7 streams. That's all I can spare. Soggy cargo, 1 star. I know. But you know what I expect, it's every. I think I kind of went off and did a delivery I really didn't need to do. And it kind of fucked me a little bit. So I invested in the anti-timefall packaging warranty. You didn't go for the premium package, you didn't go for Norman Reedus Prime. And that's what fucked you. Thank you for the ladder. Appreciate it. Come on, Norman Reedus. Norman Rodius. Now, there must be something with these buildings because they're able to deal with timefall, like it doesn't affect them. What are they built of? Can I be built of it? Also, this stuff, whatever protective clothing I have, why can't I just wrap that around the clothes or around the packages, eh? Would that not make sense? Make delivery.
Sorry, we're going streaking through the quad and into the
My parting gift for now, we look.
everybody!
Oh, thank you very much. 65 stream streak as well. My goodness, man. Thank you. No, I want to entrust. And confirm. Oh, there we go. At least I've delivered something today. Everything else just kept getting wrecked. Recycle cargo to produce new materials. So the chiral crystals have to recycle? Oh. We're gonna check. Retrieve chiral printer interface from the meal post box. Right, okay, I didn't do that. It was that one. Right, shit. Well, I have to go back that way anyway. Right, okay. Clicked. Right, the chiral printer is this way. It's up the mountain. Right, okay. I reckon I'm going to fight boys up here. I'm going to see if I can get rid of a lot of my stuff. Fabricate equipment. Unable because I don't have a printer. Okay. And like, is all this stuff wrecked? What'd I do with it? Place on floor, offload. Place in private locker. Like, all this resin stuff is fucked. That one's fucked. That metal is fucked. This one is almost. Resin. Hammered. Also probably don't need all the stuff. I want to stay as light as possible. That's all stuff that's in my private locker. Right, so placed all that stuff in my private locker. Auto arrange my shizzle. Right, and confirm. Let's go. Right, so I need to go up and now find and batter them, boys.
Beginning scan.
Right, so it's behind me. Is where I'm going.
Have a pleasant journey. Safe travels. Safe travels.
And is it up over the mountain? Ah, it's there. Up the misty mountain. Witness awesome power of the ring. Let's go. Bum 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 bum. See, if it was me, I would find somewhere like that and just never leave. And I think it's what a lot of people do, because a lot of the people you interact with are in bunkers.
Call it a rule or a habit, but most mules almost always bring stolen shipments home with them.
Sons of
Find the
bitches.
post box, steal back the cargo. Simple as that. But be careful. These guys are armed. If this goes sideways, be ready to fight.
Oh yes, I guarantee it will go sideways. 100%. I've already attacked one of them. I battered him. Octopus, what's happening? Good evening. Welcome on. We are playing a little bit of Death Stranding, and we're going up now just to fight boys by punching their faces. They had the absolute audacity to not be me, to be not Norman Reedus, and now they're going to get punched. Look at all these well-placed ladders. Thank you, all these people that did this previously. Death Stranding, what a game. I know, it's such an underrated gem as well, isn't it? Oh, I feel like I'm going to just fall off the top of this one. No, it was fine. It was fine. I lived. I lived.
Remember, Sam, before you approach the mule drop site, we recommend you use a watchtower to confirm the location of the post box containing our cargo.
Now, that was a step up. It was a step in the right direction. Definitely.
Mule drop sites are rarely deserted, so remaining undetected is key. Keep a low profile and move slowly.
Step in the right direction? It is, it is. But that's a problem with ladders as well. They're always up to something. And I get welcome on. What is happening? Metals. You know what? I'll get these on the way out, because if I get them now, I'll probably be less dynamic on my feet. This is a game I've never played. This is a wonderful game. It's really, really good. AJ, what is the story? What's going on? Can I go this way? Could I go this way? Because I feel like it's taking me down a path that's going to lead to combat. I'm going to try and be stealthy. I've seen most of the stuff they added into Days Gone. I do get Days Gone vibes off it as well. I apologize. I am a stranger. Oh, a stranger. What you buying? Yeah, so we're playing a little bit of Death Stranding, and we have this camp that we have to steal shit from. Right, I don't see any... Well, I say I don't see anybody there, but there probably is people there. That was a bit silly. Ooh, free loot. Well, there's a guy sitting there. Do you see him? I'm guaranteed as soon as I touch him, more people are going to come running. Tends to happen when I touch people. Alright, let's see. Can we sneak up? Can we get him with... Is there like stealth kills? Is there? He is the least observant man who's ever lived. You have failed! Man. The thing is as well, you have to be very, very careful not to kill people in this game, because it will lead to the Void Out, which is a massive explosion and a crater. Can I just take all? Right, we're going to steal all this stuff. Carry on back, yes. Ooh, we've medals and stuff as well in here. New boots? Maybe. Look at the shape of me. Right, we'll auto-arrange and we'll steal all stuff. Game genuinely completely, utterly passed me down. I did that for a lot of people. Ah, shit, I'm over encumbered. Crap. No, right, we gotta drop some shit. We gotta drop some shit. We're gonna put it back in the post box, and hopefully this guy doesn't wake up. Must have been the wind. Must have been my fucking farts. Right, we're going to have to put stuff back because... Right, what is weighing the most? That's the actual thing that we had to get that weighs the most. Right, shit. Okay. Climbing anchor. Probably don't need you. Don't need you. What else is hefty? The metals. You know what? Fuck it. We'll drop the metals too. What are we like weight-wise now? We are better. There we go. Stars and bars, sneaky bastard. I am sneaky. I like the night. I snuck in, battered a boy, and escaped. He was unable to detect me. I was like Batman or Solid Snake, or Bat Snake. Bat Snake Man. Looked like you were creeping there. I was creeping, and then I've carried far too much stuff, and now I'm over encumbered. But hopefully I'll make it out of here without anybody detecting me. Or Tenchu. Oh, Tenchu, what a game! What a wonderful, wonderful game. I need a new Tenchu. I know Sekiro kind of scratched that itch a wee bit, but still I need a new one. I need a new one. Just a ladder and metals. It's 100 of metals. Seems a bit much. Seems a bit much. Should have left it. Should have left it. No, not a problem. Stars and Bars, thank you very much for coming on. Anybody's not following Stars and Bars, please do so. Fellow Northern Irish streamer. Along with the NI guy. If his name wasn't spoiler enough. Was playing Skyrim earlier. Look at the amount of shit I'm carrying. This is actually based on a real world delivery person as well. They deliver to remote like villages in Japan and stuff. And they just stack up these big mounds of boxes on their back to carry them. You know, the places that vehicles can't go. Am I going to fall off this ladder? Will I use the same one that I got up in? Or am I? No, I'm not. I'm not. Destroyed metals. The metals are destroyed. Fuck. Right, okay, grab. Go down the ladder. Come on, Norman Reedus, let's go. Right, okay, we've done that actually pretty stealthy. I did not get caught. We battered one guy. We confirmed that there's no fucking stealth kills. I got promoted to leader of the Thieves Guild later after 4 missions. Nice one. Can I be promoted now saying I did that so stealthily? Tenchu's a class game. I streamed Wrath of Heaven last year, so enjoy it. What's Wrath of Heaven? I don't know what that is.
All we had to do was sit back and let him work. It was revolutionary.
Let him cook.
Damn near singularity. No reason for it not to take off, but it didn't. People didn't like it when we took the human element out of the service industry. So, after some consideration, we put it back in.
Alright, let's go.
Jobs no one really needed and gave them to folks who couldn't live
So, this is
without
currently playing Exorcism 33, one of the best games that have been released in a long time. Phenomenal game. Tenchu Wrath of Heaven's a PS2 game, really fun. I don't know if I played it when I played Tenchu 1, Tenchu 2, and Tenchu Z. But I never played Wrath of Heaven.
Beginning scan. Scanning bridges.
Maybe an idea to look under. Might be an idea to look under.
All weapons will remain locked until departure. Cargo verified.
Same first 3, yeah. Try Wrath of Heaven and Fatal Shadows, so much fun. Ooh, very nice. It was Sekiro kind of scratched that itch for me. It was, but because it's a Souls game as well, it was the whole boss fights as well you had to kind of deal with. But it was being very, very stealthy and kind of picking enemies off before you jump in and fight them, because if you go on their group, you're hammered no matter how good you think you are. Right. Hopefully this gets my fabricator up and running.
All clear. Welcome.
Or my printer.
Border bridges. Have a pleasant journey.
You have a pleasant journey back. Right, let's go. Activate terminal. Deliver requested cargo. Yes. And could I just deliver everything in the one go? Yeah, I think so. Happy days. Cool beans. Cool beans. Can't remember where I get the charger for the motorbike.
Sorry.
Yeah, for some reason he has to inspect it. He's not thankful enough of me. Look at that. No damage. Nobody see me. I was like the knight. I was fucking Batman.
Sam.
I got new boots.
Nothing ruined.
Blar, 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 blar.
You should
Shoes. Shoes, shoes, shoes.
Good.
Bridge gear. What are you? What are you? What are you? What's this? Never used. No facilities. Some of the bandwidth has been shared with Sam. Cool, 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 cool. God, it loves its menus, doesn't it, this game?
Congratulations, Sam. I understand you now have access to a chiral printer. An extraordinarily useful device that can only function because of the manner in which I'm enabling us to transfer massive volumes of data instantly.
So fiber broadband then?
Since some have speculated that the chiral network might, in essence, be a time machine.
Ooh.
It is transmitting data.
Great Scott, Marty. We have to go back in time.
One might like
To go back to the future.
Is it you? Never the furthermore.
Blah, 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 blah.
Good work.
I think my problem was the last stream, there was so much talking. Cutscenes. Right. I still have lost cargo. I still have lost cargo to deliver. Right, okay. No. Go you there. And deliver. Righto. Are they going to phone me now? What do I have to do next? It's kind of telling me to go here. But I was just on the interface and there was nothing there. Punch it! Punch it, Chewie. Oh, fabricate equipment that wants me to do this, right? I have to make new shoes?
Sam, you can use that PCC to build a post box.
Right, okay. Do I want to build a post box? I don't really want to build a I don't want to build a post box. Don't make me if I don't have to. Tell Hardman to stop being in games and start making more movies like Drive. He's a wild man, like wild man himself. Right, so I have extra shoes there. Required available. Right, okay. I don't really want to build a post box, but apparently I kind of have to. Okay. Right. Right, it's not giving me any more missions, which I'm kind of weirded about.
Have a pleasant journey. Still got work to do, Sam. Let's not keep people waiting.
Are you... Is this actually doing a Days Gone thing where as soon as I walk away from the thing it gives out the missions? Or, oh, I had to speak to you about a mission. That drove me mad in Days Gone. You'd be chatting to an NPC and they'd have nothing else to say. And as soon as you're such a distance outside town, they'd be all, oh, come back, I have a mission. Right, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to put the chiral crystals in. Right, okay, that's the bit I was missing. I didn't actually need to make a post box. Fuck it. We have one now.
Got some chiral crystals for us?
Hey, man, you got any of them crystals, man?
Which way? Mate.
I'm just looking, my daughter has gone back outside again. Now, the time that she's supposed to be in for the night is 9 p.m. So she's cut. Oh, repair spray. Yes! She's cutting it tight. Now I can build bridges.
Excess chiral crystals can be deposited. These local.
You've been awarded the title Skilled Handler. That's been said about me before.
Oh, before I forget.
Is it an Xbox? No. That's what it is. What is it? Container. Oh, yes. Yes.
Cargo. Good for useful. We've added.
Send that one to private locker. Send that one to private locker. And this one I am going to take. Carry on back. Carry on back.
There is a correlation between
Jesus, it's like a fucking 3 p.m. on a Friday, and just everybody wants to do Teams calls with you.
network's expansion. You needn't worry though. Local chiral density is still within an acceptable range. If
You're
you
within
find
fucking
anything
acceptable
short of
ranges.
equipment, you'll be well rewarded.
Right. Oh, sweet Jesus.
Some more chiral crystals. You can submit them and
Blah, 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 blah. Right, is everybody done talking to me? Take on a new order to distribution center west of Cap. So I have to take on a new one here, even though I was just on the menu. Right, so power unit delivery wind farm. Have to build a bridge. Right, okay. And then I have sort of a few of them. Right, okay. Can I just select them all? We'll just do all of them. This order involves a heavy cargo load. Completing it on foot will prove difficult, except regardless. Which one's this one? Can we do this one first then, saying it's just outside the front door? Ah, so this is the one with the heavy cargo load. Right, okay.
We've added a bridge. Give.
Right, so we're going to build a bridge. Like a bridge.
we're issuing you a make.
Oh, I got a gun.
Bear in mind.
It's non-lethal.
You should
Cool
finish-
beans.
use-
Right, we've loaded all our stuff. I'm hoping all I have to do is really go out the front here. You're grand. You're grand. Suck it up, buttercup. Let's go. Fucking Norman isn't happy at all.
Order assigned.
We still have like what, 12.
Beginning scan. Have a
We
pleasant
still have
journey.
12 left. We're fine. We still have 12 kgs left. Jesus, it's a light load. It's easy going. Easy going. When I was your age, Norman, I had to walk to school 14 miles in the snow uphill on my bare feet. Through there and back, both times uphill.
Be in place. With your help, we'll have the thing finished in no time. There should be a terminal nearby.
Alright.
Access it to submit
Bridge over here.
materials.
Weapons restrictions lifted.
Meh, meh, meh. Construction zone. Well, thank God that's here, because otherwise the monsters would not listen to the sign.
Looks like you found the site. There should be a terminal nearby. Access it to submit additional materials.
Sorry, I ran past it. I was going terminal velocity. How'd I build? Burp, 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 burp. Right, what do you tell me? Structure menu? Right, I'll have to hold it down. Right, now press it, hold it. Right, okay. Complete structure. Complete structure. Adding materials. Adding materials. This will be a lot handier for getting across. Whenever it builds the roads and stuff as well, it's cool. If only I could build things like that in real life. What doesn't make any sense to me is the fact it built it that way, even though it can't see what it's building. If it built it the other way, it would make a bit more sense. But you know what? We're not gonna split hairs.
Bravo, Sam. That
Well, thank you.
make life easier for a lot of people. You can
I'm the only person here. What are you talking about?
who passes that way will put it to good use. Keep it.
And I have to go up to this farm at some point. So, and then the wind farm as well. Right, I want to do this wee one first though.
That could do with another well-placed
I'm just going to go down and get the. I'm just going to go down and get the other mission, just to be sure. Because it was something to do. It was saying it was recommended something to do with the gun, and I kind of want to do that one.
Scanning bridges ID. Verifying ID. Clear. Weapons detected. All weapons will be locked until departure.
Look at all the likes these guys are getting.
Sam,
Fair play.
decontaminating suit. All clear. Pleasant journey. Welcome, Sam Porter Bridges.
Probably don't need the rest of these resources then. I could pop them on, just because they're going to weigh me down. A lot of this game is menus, isn't it? Fabricate equipment. Firing range. No, I don't need that. Private locker. Right, so that's what's in there at the moment. And what's on me is that. Power supply unit that is needed for the wind farm. That's part of a quest, so I don't need to bring that with me. Metals, I don't need to bring them. Kojima loves menus. He does. He loves menus and he loves weird shit. Meal bits, I don't need them. Probably don't need that ladder. Not yet, anyway. So place all them in my private locker. We'll take the other missions. I've already automatically picked them up. Right, okay. It is only really coming up to one there. Quarter grades. This was flashing earlier. Orders available, 0. Is it making me go to the firing range? Is that why? Fabricate equipment. Don't really need to fabricate anything. Go to firing range, right? Okay. We'll try at the firing range. We'll have a look at it. Hope it doesn't use up any vital ammo or anything. Bum 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 bum. 3D VR. EA Sports. It's in the game. Drills. Destroy all target. Right, okay. What would I get for this? Is it just a wee extra thing they put on the director's cut? Bridges Weapons Division. Point deduction for destroying blue targets. Right, okay. Where's the weapon? Where's the gun? No! Don't do a body slam. Oh, there we go. Right, let's go. Whoa! Correct! Wait, alright. It's in the game. It is. Horax, welcome and thank you very much for the raid. How was your stream? What is the story? Thank you very much for coming on. I've seen you were playing a bit of Kingdom Hearts as well earlier on, doing some optional stuff. How did the stream go? I know most people in my chat probably already knows Horax, but Horax is... He's like the American version of me. And very, very cool gentleman. Met him through Mike. He plays a lot of Kingdom Hearts, WWE, plays Final Fantasy games. He is also the NPC director for the for Echo S, for Final Fantasy 8, 9, and for Chrono Trigger as well. Kingdom Hearts 1's done, so on to Chain of Memories. Ooh, nice one. Nice one. I don't think I played that one. Happy days. You're tearing through them rightly now, look. But anybody that raids into me as well goes into my Hall of Fame, so bear with me a wee second. And I think this is your second time this month. It is, look at you up in the top corner there, Horax, twice this month as well. You absolute legend. Thank you so much for choosing me for your raid. Anyone who Horax's stream doesn't know me, my name's Leoric. I am a streamer from Northern Ireland. People often describe me as the Irish Horax, and you know what? I'll go with it. I'll go with it. If you need to raid and run, if you need to go get something to eat, work away. We are playing through a bit of Death Stranding at the moment and trying to figure our way through this wilderness and deliver some parcels, because when the apocalypse hits, Amazon's the last one to go. Right. Oh, it's a laser gun. Lasers. Alright, so it's headshots, I think, more than anything. Right, okay. I don't know where the blue people are. Right, okay. So apparently there's blue people I'm not supposed to shoot. Oh, you're too far away from me. Clearly. Right, okay. This is very handy for the mules, but I doubt it's going to have any use whatsoever when it comes to BTs. Oh, blue person, blue person! Don't shoot the blue person. Right, okay, let's go. I'm not disliking this combat at all, it's quite good. I know it's the big disparity between lethal and non-lethal. It's making sure that you don't kill. Well, I suppose you can if you really want, but you're just going to make life very, very difficult for yourself. And we've also discovered that my aim is horrendous. So that too is another thing. So I got points for it. Drill complete. A rank. That's my first non-S. I'm better at delivering than I am delivering Smackdown. No, I do not. I don't want to do again. Right, okay. Is that me done? Am I done? Right, okay. I have to access this to get early firing range. That's what I'm looking for. Right, what am I doing now? So I have to take this power thing into... No, I don't want to do any more firing range. No, go away. So I have to take this power supply over to here. Let's see. Plot route. Right. Place marker. I don't think I need the place marker because I kind of know where I'm going. Oh, we have an ad break starting soon. Alright, actually, before we start this, I'm going to quickly go and take a quick break and then run some ads as well. I'm going to get a wee drink as well and figure out where my daughter is. I'll be back in a second.
is rising. The battle lines are drawn, choose your side. No going back now. Cast your vote of kings. Crown the one and rule your heart. Vote of kings. Tear the old world apart. Which legend takes the throne? Cast your vote of kings. Soldiers from distant lands, crystals and blades colliding, stealth through shadows, time itself rewinding. The battle lines are drawn, choose your side, history in your hands. Cast your vote of kings, crown the one that ruled your heart. Vote of kings, tear the old world apart. Which legend takes the throne? Cast your vote of kings. 7 versus 8. Snake versus shine time. Every memory at stake. Remember when we first believed this was turned to prophecy. Now decide what kingdoms breed.
Now, Barris, you are lucky. Me and you almost had a wee falling out there. See if you had gone from for Elden Ring over Mass Effect 2. Oh, there would have been fights. There would have been fights, sir. Should I rest up before I do this? You know what? Let's go. Let's risk it for the biscuit. So we have to make our way across our newly made bridge, and we have to make it to a wind farm where we're delivering some sort of power supply. Which is odd because we're supposed to be wind turbines, so technically they should work themselves. I think the shenanigans. I think somebody is skimming tax money off the top. It's tempted, but Mass Effect tells the story better. It does. As much as I enjoy some of the FromSoft games, the one thing I do dislike is the lack of stories in a lot of them. Like, there's lore, but you have to go looking for it. It's like, oh, find all the lore and item descriptions. No, I don't want to. I want you to tell me what the lore is. Sekiro, I thought, did a better job of it, though. It really instructed you a lot better as to what the story was.
Nice.
Tell me what you want.
Treat, bitch.
Oh, excuse me? No. What do you say?
She hears it, too.
No.
She's sitting looking at me now. She can hear it.
I'm not gonna give you a treat if you call me that. What do you say?
Please, 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 bitch, please.
I would be tempted to make that shorter, but I actually really enjoy it. I enjoy the entire video. Look, you can't even see her. She's that much in the darkness now. You're in the darkness, Claire. Can't even see you. There we go. They're chomping away. No. Need a bit. Oh, let's see if I can brighten that up a bit. I have a video that I just made as well on how to go into studio mode and make changes to other parts of your stream whilst you're not actually on that screen. I think that goes up on Thursday. So filters, color correction. There we go. It's a bit brighter, isn't it? Same. The lore is unbelievable, so deep, but my Christ. Yeah, they don't want to tell you what's happening. I got annoyed in Elden Ring because the whole way through the whole started the game, they're like, oh, you want to become Elden Lord. And I was like, I have never said that. And because my character has zero personality, I don't like the fact that you're making these assumptions. You want to become Elden Lord. No, I don't. Feck off. Where Sekiro, there was at least a story. It was like, you got your arm cut off by this guy, and you have to save the kid, and, you know, it makes sense. And then you have some cracker ones like Liza P and Kazan and stuff where you have you know what you're doing, you know why you're doing it. I just kind of felt with Dark Souls and Elden Ring and stuff, it was more so, it was just kind of happening to you. And there was no purpose apart from just moving forward into the new area and beating the bosses.
How you doing, Sam?
It's good you're talking to yourself, kiddo. You know what I mean? And as good as the gameplay was and learning the bosses and the grinding loops and stuff was all great, I just didn't understand why I was doing anything. The only thing that actually really fucking fucked me up on those games was... Oh, what do you call that dog? It's a... God, what do you call the dog? Was it Sev the dog? The wolf was guarding its master's grave. And you come in and it starts to limp as well when you get down to low health. And I was like, oh no, that's the most soul-destroying thing I've ever seen. And no matter what you do, you can't just stop the fight. You can't just not hit it anymore. It'd be good if you could run around for 5 minutes and not hit it and eventually just becomes your friend. And you heal it. That would be a lot better, but no, you'd be murdered, then you just feel horrendous about it. That is the most feels I've got in a Dark Souls or Elden Ring game. I was like, no! Not the puppy.
Keep it up. Keep it up.
Keep it up. Let's go. What is that over there? There's a box. You know what? I'll pick that up on the way back. I don't think I should pick it up going on here because I can't see the forest without trees. What is this for? Does this tell me to rest? Should I rest? Let's tell me to drink from my canteen. My monster juice. Let's go. Oh, Papa Days are playing music. Here we go. I don't... Oh, look at that. Look at all that shit. Don't like it. Don't like it. Right, Sam, this is going to turn into bullshit, I think. Who is Benjamin Hancock? Why is he flat out putting post boxes everywhere? The man is building an entire route of post boxes. Cargo special machine. Your special machine. Ooh. Kyro crystals. Yes, we'll take them. I don't want to be lifting anything extra now before I go in here. I'm off the network. I'll go for crystals, but that is all. Keep myself light. Alright, I need to go down there. Could I fucking go around the outside of it? Could I avoid the force? Too far from cargo. Right, that's fine. You know what? I look at that. Oh, there's loads of them. We fellas up there. Happy days. Oh, I don't have a ladder though. Should be able to climb it. Oh, how do we jackpot up here? Look at this. Can I just skip them all? Look at that. This is well worth... The juice was worth the squeeze up here. Definitely. Let's continue along this path then. Right, so I'm supposed to get there, so I'll loop around up here. Hopefully it'll avoid me all the bullshit. Because there's definite bullshittery down there. There's shenanigans and tomfoolery afoot. I'm not a fan of it. Strong wind can make movement trickier. Your face can make movement trickier. Right, let's see what's happening. Still don't trust it. I do not trust it. Oh, shit. Fall. Right, I probably need to repair my stuff as well at some point. Because the rain is destroying it. Even like if I had a cargo poncho. Why is there no cargo ponchos? And we find some bullshit. Ooh, right, okay. Up here does not look great. Let's take a wee drink. Drink, sir. There we go. Drink a juice. Drink a juice. Alright, we're going to have to go down here a wee bit then. Shit. Right. Whatever it is, the closest one is kind of there. So if we can loop around it. Right, I can't see exactly where he is. I'm just hoping I don't slip. The train is... I'm on is... Shit. Kiddo, calm down. Kid's stress levels is through the roof. He's fucked. I don't know where this thing is. I can hear it. Can I calm down the Wayne? Right, we need to get a bit stealth here. Well, the Wayne seems to be naturally calming down anyway, which is good. I don't think that fall particularly helped though. And there's more. Of course there is. Look at that. Do they see me? I don't know. Don't think so. Right. I think we've got to where we need to get to though, thankfully. Avoided them as much as possible. Much as possible. Right, let's get up. Right, kid is calm. Scanning Bridges ID. I would not like to live in this wee cavern with all those things floating about in the forest. Right, so we've got here... It's all gravy. I hate the fact as well, no one ever invites him in past the front door. He's just always left here talking to... like, invisible people. Is anyone even alive? Is that what it is? Is everybody dead and I'm the only one left living?
Thank you. With this unit, we should be able to power other places. Here's hoping the UCA can put our electricity to good use. Mind if I have a look?
Yeah, just call me out in front of the thing. That's like a pizza delivery guy delivering to our house and me looking at the pizza while I stand at the door. Can I have a look at this pizza? Also, beggars can't be choosers. Why are they even worried about it? So cargo's 90%. Okay, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. That's fine. Yes, class. Cargo condition. Fucking smashed it.
All we need now is a connection to the Chiral.
All we need now is a connection to Cairo. Oh, Cairo Network U. Which is literally what I'll do. I think that's always the weirdest sort of grief an Irish or Scottish parent can give a kid. Like if a kid comes in, oh, can I have a bike? I'll bike you. What? Or like it always says, come here over here to hit you. It's just, there's always a weird one. And so we've added a new place to the Chiral network. Nice one.
Bandwidth is a limit. However, as you increase your connection level,
Feel more like a BT engineer now, hooking up networks. Don't call me OpenReach for nothing. Right, so I can now build a generator, and I can fix my bicycle.
About time we did our part. Thanks again. You know, I heard the rest.
I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part. I did fuck all.
You're a one-man expedition. I hope Amelie's doing as well as you. Wonder if she made it to Edgenot City yet. It was her that put us in charge of the wind farm. I was with the group bringing up the rear while Amelie led the way. I've never met her in person, but it was an honor to travel with her all the same. When you see her, feel free to tell her I said so, huh?
Okay, random guy who I don't know his name.
Got a moment? I ran an experiment with your blood.
Okay, that's not weird.
To something. After dispersing an aerosolized sample of your blood in BT territory, we observed reduced activity.
Oh.
While this is hardly definitive, as we have no other repatriates to whom we can turn for additional testing, it does suggest that the bodily fluids of repatriates are repellent to BTs.
Good, because last time I seen one, I did shit myself.
Test this theory. The prototype should be ready soon, and when it is, we'd like you to test it.
Sam, this is the perfect opportunity. We've almost got the whole region on the Chiral network. All that's left is Port Knot City. Return to Capital Knot City so you can pick up relief supplies for Port Knot. By the time you arrive, we can give you the completed prototype in person.
Aye, fair play.
It's not very often porters get out to that wind farm. While you're there, you should pick up any outstanding orders. No sense coming all the way back here. Have a look at that.
Fine. Right, okay. Okay.
Finding Leoric
Sure,
in
there's
on a
himself.
person's chat is not, shall we say, the rarest gym badge in Kanto. You'll usually find him somewhere making dad jokes, you know? Yeah, but like you're one of those like shiny ones that everyone has because they were like in a special drop event or something like that, you know?
You know, Ian, I really enjoy that walk on. I think it's my favorite one. It's my favorite one. Accept orders, right? I've selected them all, except all orders. Didn't want them to just get on with Arturo. No. Man keeps himself. Man keeps himself. How has your Saturday been, Ian?
By way of reward, I've added a little something to your PC.
Interrupt. Right, okay, I get you.
Generators recharge the batteries of all that.
Right, I know what a generator does. We're going to get our motorbike on. Doing good. Was Eves? Wasn't Eves of moving stuff from work? Great crack. Is this your were you taking stuff from the office, or is this your desk at home?
Such devastation.
Teddy, what is happening?
Not my intention.
Teddy. Why did I not see the new Final Fantasy 14 quest marker symbols on your name? Oh, this is heavy work. This is heavy work. Heavy lifting. Let's go. Right, I think there's still bullshit out here in the forest, though. That's the only thing.
See you soon, I hope.
Katie, what is the story? Because I watched 2 hours of the official stream on... you don't have to watch an hour, don't you? I think it's up until tonight as well. You can rewatch it, I think. But there's that one, and there's the little cat one you get as well, which is quite cool. And so there's bridges down there now. But is there bullshit? Go on, please stop phoning me. That's like a 3 PM on a Friday. An hour for the fat cat, and then an hour for the meteor. Ah, right. Right, so there's BTs down there. Right, okay. So I am going to go the way I came. I am just going to cross back over here. Fuck all you shit. Fuck all you shit. I do like it when they do things like that, and also the new expansion looks pretty cool. I have until... When is it out? Is it October, November time? I have until then to actually finish Dawn Trail, so I really have to get back into it now. But the excitement. January to... Oh, so it's January? Oh, a wee bit more time. Jesus, I'll do that over Christmas break, no bother. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I need to get back into it, I think. I'm still paying for it. But it's exciting stuff whenever you see a new expansion. Got big Wrath of the Lich King vibes off it. Mostly because, like, shit was cold. Right. Okay. Me like an icy setting. It is a... For a while it looked like World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV were doing very, very similar expansions. And then... And this kind of separates them out a bit, which I quite like. Wait, which way am I going now? No, I don't want camera. No camera. Save all your cameras for me. Right, so I am going the right way. Cool beans. Is it up this hill though? It's the trees blocking me, I think's the problem. Bye bye baby, bye bye. Ba -da -ba 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 -da. You know what? It might be over that way. You know what? We'll climb up here and we'll go. We'll go. Fucking go. Nobody's saying nothing to me. You know, I don't even know if there was BTs in that section there when on the way back out. Feck it. We'll go. We'll go. Bum 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 bum. Medical supplies. What are we like weight-wise though? What are we like weight-wise? 64 kg. We're fine. We're fine. We could take a little bit more. We could take a little bit more. I am doing very well. I am enjoying the crack. I had a very, very productive and lazy day both at the same time. Made a couple of the YouTube videos. We finally had 100 subscribers on the YouTube, thanks to all you fine folks. But also, Hook sent me a message the other day, and someone from Meld Studio, or the official Meld Studio YouTube page, commented on our Meld video, and I was like, ah, class. So I was all alerted that. I'm thinking of an idea for what to cover next for them. For Meld, but I don't know how it's going to go because it's going to be kind of pros and cons of their new Spark AI system. Which, for a brand new streamer that has nothing and they have ideas of what they want to do, is brilliant. But on the other side of it, you know, you have a lot of people that would rely on commissions and actual artists and stuff that they're just going to be circumventing. So there's definite pros and cons to it. I've tried to like do in my head what way I want to figure out the actual video, and I just haven't got around to it yet. So I did two the other day. I did one on how to set up, you know, the Move source plugin, and another one on how to... Fuck, I can't remember now. What was the second one on? On studio mode, how to amend things in studio mode when you're live. Ooh. Performance enhancing beverages? I fucking love the music in this game. Oh, we're too heavy. Shit. We might have to... Could I... No, we're gonna drop it. We're just gonna drop it. Fuck it, we can't lift it. Performance enhancing beverages. Unfortunately, you gotta go, brother. No, drop it. There we go. There we go. Sam did not want to leave that one alone. But can you imagine how long it would take me to struggle down this mountain holding it? That was the main thing as well with the last stream that had me worried, was the copyright strikes with this game, because it's official licensed music, and it seemed to be fine, both on Twitch and YouTube. I was expecting big portions of it to be muted, but no, it was grand. It could also be because I'm destroying the song by yapping over the top of it. That could also be an issue. I think the last real one I got right, I'm getting this medical instrument though. This is for people who get injured due to violence. Yeah, so the last ones I've got was the very end of Final Fantasy 16 on the song and the end credits. And just most of Spec Ops. There's big chunks of my Spec Ops ones just are completely muted because it had licensed music on it. And that's part of the reason why you can't actually buy that game digitally anymore. Because of its licensed music. You find that with a lot of things though, you know, there's games that you can't get digitally anymore, and it's due to silly reasons, like there's a licensed song in it that the developers don't have the rights to distribute anymore. Because whenever they originally signed up the license, they only did it for a set amount of time, which is madness, because what happens if your game really did take off? They take a wee drink. Also, hold on, I'm going to check a wee second. I want to see if my daughter has actually come home as well, because potentially she has not. Right, okay. I'm going to phone her here whilst I'm on stream. What a crack, what a crack.
This is the Vodafone voicemail.
She helping me. Oh, I know Cleo's up in arms about it. Cleo's up in arms about it. I'll phone her on the WhatsApps. See if I get a hold of her. She knows the crack. I know. She's just crafty. She knows I'm streaming and I'm not checking. Cleo, I need you to speak English. You can tell me if she's in the house or not. She was told to be in for 9 o'clock. I didn't hear her come on. And the thing that baffles me is I know the fact that their mobile phones are always stuck to them. So there's no chance they're not answering that. Or they don't see it. There's potential that she's seen me ring now and is in a blind panic to get back to the house. Let's see. Answer your phone. I'm just going to keep ringing. 100%. Yeah. Oh, 100%. But you know what? She needs to be. Well, she's lifting a large quiche with both hands. That is very specific. How big is this quiche? I made the mistake years ago where I was at school and seen there was quiche in the menu for lunch and I called it a quickie. It's a two-hander. My God. Your father is ringing you. Your father is ringing you. Answer your phone. Where are you? Or just a quarter bottle of vodka hasn't sobered up enough. I just buy chewing gum, it's fine. It's grand. No, she's 12. She better not be. I joke, but she'd be dead. She'd be murdered. Suspicious dad noises. Why is she not answering the mobile phone to me? I was half joking. I know. But I understand these jokes. Because the last person going past on the camera was me. And that is not a pretty sight. You can see her going back out the front door. What did he? Wait, where are you, daughter? Answer your phone! This is such riveting stream. Watch me phone my daughter to make sure she gets back into the house. I know she hears it too. The phone is constantly going. Pum 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 pum. Right, you know what? Let me phone her on her normal number again. This will be the last one. I'll give her 5 then. They're going to be back.
This is the Vodafone.
No signal, which means she's probably close because there's no signal around my house. So that's probably what it is. She's probably freaking out and running back to the house. Oh. Takes note on how to dad. The best dad bit of a show I've ever seen. And I've actually had to do this, and it's phenomenal, is if you've ever watched the show The Middle, and the daughter Sue and her friend go off to a party, and there's people drinking at the party, and they're not very comfortable at all, and they want to go home, so she phones her dad, but she doesn't want to be the embarrassing kid who didn't want to be there. So he comes on, Mike comes on, and he's fucking brilliant. He comes on and he pretends to be outraged, winks at his daughter and says, "That's it, you're grounded. I told you not to leave the house and you came to this party." And she calls him names and says, "That's it, St. Cleo. Cleo probably would find her. Cleo would. But then might want to not come back in herself and I'll just lose it to them." And Mike kicks off about it and he starts going on about, "I told you not to leave the house and how dare you do?" But he gives her a wink saying, "You're not actually in trouble, but this is so you can keep face." And then her friend comes over and goes, "Is my dad angry too?" And he's, "Oh yeah, your dad's angry too. You're coming with me in the car." And I've actually had to do that before where they've been uncomfortable in a situation and I've had to pretend to be angry so they can have it out and say, "Oh, my dad's just being a dick. And, he's just being a nightmare. I have to go home now," rather than they don't want to be there. You can always be their bad guy if needs be, which is quite cool. And I don't mind people thinking I'm grumpy, people thinking I'm being a bastard. If they're uncomfortable somewhere, I'm just like, yeah, 100%, I'm there. I'm that guy. Bum, 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 bum. Where are we? I actually tried to do like news articles whenever my son was born, and it was about how to game as a dad, and it was different like strategies and techniques and what type of games to play. The main takeaway was always play a game that you can pause, but it was about being a gamer and a new dad, and it was, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed writing it, but then as parenthood progresses, you end up having no time for anything. I never had the money. If I didn't, like, well, I never had that problem. If I didn't like being there, I left. Well, except for work where I'm there for the money. Yeah, that's true. The chancer was pouring a wee Guinness. 0 wee Guinness. Oh, fair play, fair play. She didn't answer. She didn't answer yet. I'm assuming she's on her way back now in a blind panic. I'm not going to keep phoning her over and over again, though, because she'll see them as calls. She knows what she did. I'll give her another couple of minutes and then I'll ring her again. But I would have been like you, McKen. See if I was uncomfortable or if I was in a situation I didn't like. I'd just be like, fuck this, I'm away. What's her curfew? Well, it was supposed to be 9 o'clock, but she's gone half an hour over it now. Grounded. Making tea all day tomorrow. Yep, 100%. But I understand as well, where I didn't, even as a teenager, I didn't really give a shit what other people thought. But I know that they kind of do. They don't want to be slagged for wanting to go home or not being comfortable, and it kind of gets them around that peer pressure thing, where I never felt peer pressure, because if I didn't want to do something, I just didn't fucking do it. And the more you nag me about it, the more I dug my heels in, where It's different for other people as well, so you kind of have to factor that in too. Taylor, none of us are angry. We're just disappointed. I'm going to say it there. You're ginger. You had to ignore people or get bullied more. That's true. That's true. I got bullied a little bit in first year when I was at school, but it wasn't a huge amount. I'm going to give Warren a wee ring now. I didn't get bullied a huge amount. I was quite tall when I was younger, and then I just stopped growing and everyone else caught up to me. Should I go angry, Dad? Let me figure out how I'm going to play this when she does eventually answer. She's just really not picking up at all. There's potential as well. Her phone is dead, which she quite often does, and that could be why it doesn't ring normally. Oh, give me a little too in first year, through the fourth, and I had stopped too. Also, yeah, it's horrible. Boys, I don't think we get it as bad as girls. Girls get bullied. That's relentless. Like they are fierce. Where fellas just fight it out. And her mobile's dead. Guaranteed. 100%. Right, okay. Hook was taller than me until second year. Fuck off, McKins. Fuck off. Girls are far meaner. They are. We boys fight it out. We boys, they had each other and then they're best buddies. Where girls are malicious. And there's mind games and stuff, and they do stuff that we wouldn't even think about doing, you know. I didn't grow up until summer, going 4th to 5th. I was really tall. I was one of the taller people in first year in my school. And then I just didn't grow after that, and then everybody else caught up. But it was funny, I got bullied in first year because I wouldn't say bad words, I wouldn't curse. And now I curse like a sailor, so you know what? I was just so adamant about it, I just felt I didn't need to. And then afterwards I was just like, fuck it. Yep, he was stopped growing after second year. It happens to the best of us. I was lucky to be 5'10" when I stopped growing though. But I hate bullying. I'd have to deliver more stuff to you. I fucking hate bullying. It's a nightmare. And it's horrible once you're Wayne's because there's not much you can really do about it. Although there was a young fella that was giving her a bit of grief. And she came on the other day going, he tried to kick me again. And I was like, well, what'd you do? She goes, I beat him up. And he ran away crying because she battered him. And I was like, fair, Foxy, fair play. Right, we're going to get our motorbike set up now. You've reached the limit for the amount of cargo can be entrusted to you. The fallen cargo has been destroyed. What do you mean? 100% take it to the local boxing club. I think I will. Some sort of mixed martial arts or something. Some sort of self-defense thing, because it'd be really handy for her to have. My first day, first year, got in the fight. Didn't back down. Never bothered again then. And that's normally the way it goes.
Why not give it a try?
Right. So this is my motorbike. I'm going to build... these structures. I can pee! Can I pee? I can't look, it moves the camera away. We're pissing. We're taking the piss. He turns if he try and look and he's winky. Is that did a mushroom grow where I pissed? It fucking did too. There's a mushroom with my name on it. Oh, that's because I'm such a fun guy. Right. We need to build one of these. Wait, how do I change what it's supposed to be? Select structure. Watchtower generator, that's the one. So if I plop this down here, it should charge it. What is the rest of this cargo that I have strapped to my back? Metals! Loads of metals. Is this the stuff that has to go to over here. Where's it going? Right, so that's where I got the wind farm. That's the mule outpost. No. Was it going back here? Right, okay. You know what? It's not going to be too bad if I have my motorbike. Go fully charger, and then we're just going to take off into the distance. The wind in our hair. It's been a while since I've had wind in my hair. Oh, hold on. Cleo, what's the matter? Are you growling at? Has my daughter come home? If I check the cameras, will I see her? Where for art thou is she, Cleo? Eh? Where is daughter person? Live on the camera. She's not at the back. Is she in the front? Live on the camera. No. Cleo, you find her. You find her. You tell me what she's doing. You find her. Sorry, I'm being very antisocial and being on the phone. You know what? I can strap my cargo to this as well, which is good. Can I do it from here? Can I just, like, auto put it on the thing? Yeah. Oh, we're sucking diesel now. Look at us go. Walking sim, my ass. Look at this. Brum 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 brum. I shouldn't have done that, but I wanted to get this. Flimosh is spamming. Flimosh is spamming your daddy redeem from somewhere. Wait, what? I don't have a daddy redeem. Oh, is it on? Is it your one? Is he in your chat spamming it? He's at a wedding at the moment, making you be dad. Ah, right, okay. He's at a wedding at the moment. Him and Hook are out being social, which I don't appreciate. Ian, I don't appreciate it. It's weird and unusual to me.
Okay, there you go, Speed Demon.
Speed Demon. No need to be, dude. Being a dad's more important than stream. I think Flimosh would disagree. I think it's actually just going to be quite funny to see what her excuse is. And, you know, it's one of those things as well. I don't fully relax until she's back in the house. We're out of the network. Back in the network. Make up your mind. The Cairo network. And boys are going to come for me. But what are they? What you know, realistically, what he's going to do? Oh, there's one there. Shit. I spoke too soon. I was too confident in my motorcycling. Oh, this boy belting at me. Yes, lad. Look, they're still running. You ain't gonna catch me. Run as fast. Oh, shit. Oh, you might catch me. Run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerhead man. Oh, this is infinitely better than walking. We never did find that motorbike that we broke at the very start. Need to check as well, see if there's any BTs of it. Because they can make this a bit of a nightmare. Oh, look at, there's a super speed. A boost. Ricky, what's happening? Why are you pink? Why are you pink, Ricky? Whoa! Breaking our bike. Breaking a bike. I'm lurking about. What is happening? Are you still streaming tomorrow night, buddy? So it takes us half our battery to get here. That's not too bad at all. Not too shabby. Mr. Loverman. Shabby. I'll indeed be streaming tomorrow. Oh, I'll be looking forward to it. I will be getting my gardening done tomorrow. Fuck, I reckon this motorcycle. Right. And I need to take it easy a little bit. Slow it down. The water, I think, is kind of fucking me up a little bit. Turns out electric vehicles and water do not mix. Could I drive across this? Drive the car. Yes, yes I can. Bum 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 bum. Who would have predicted electric vehicles and water would be a bad combo? I wouldn't have. It said it was water resistant. Does that not mean waterproof now? Keep on keeping on. See, now that I'm on like the proper roads, it should charge itself. I think if I pull up here as well, it'll do the job. We'll do like a fast charge. There we go. Motorbike getting charged. Oh, who are these guys? Oh, they're waving! Friends. Alright, they're not real. Nobody's real in this game. Everybody's fake. Whilst we're running in here, I'm going to check the phone, see if she got back to me.
Welcome, Sam Porter Bridges.
Nope, she did not. Little bitch. How's it been? Oh, it's been great. Been going along really, really well. Haven't died yet. Been a few sort of hairy situations, but been grand.
Deliver your cargo, then you can take on new
And deliver requested cargo, whatever this is. Cargo is ready to be delivered. Cool beans. We built a bridge, we built an electric generator, we've kind of really opened up the game a fair bit now, just so, you know, traversal-wise. I know it's in perfect condition. I made it. What is that right here? It is my daughter person. Oh my goodness. We'll wait until she gets on here. We're going to call her. We'll call her on. Right, folks. We're going to be Sternware. Right? I need Jesus to back me up. I need chat to back me up for this one. Taking off one ear so I can hear. Mary, where were you? I was phoning you. Listen, my chat has all been worried about you. Come on over and tell them yourself. Come over beside me. Put your head down.
Hello.
We're not angry. We're just disappointed. Right, go. Bye-bye. Tut, tut, indeed, stars and bars. Tut, tut, indeed. Crafty. 2 hours of the Choki. RKO all around. Oh my god! What time do you call this? I'm just glad he's home safe. She. I know she may have Hook's hairs cut from the 90s, but she is female.
Hey, I got something for you.
It's funny as well because we named her Liara after the character in Mass Effect, and she is the most un-video gamey person I've ever met. She just couldn't be bothered with them at all. And she's even had a teacher at school turn around and go, "Ah, is your name Liara after the character in Mass Effect?" And she's like, "Yes, my dad's a big nerd." Cleo can sleep over. So Cleo was pacing back and forth. I probably should have listened to what that was. I regret Speaking of lit, Steam Train, what time do you call this? My goodness. My goodness. Coming in with your blitzballs at what? 9:45 at night? 9:45? My goodness, man. Welcome on Steam Train. What is that? More importantly, this is true. This is true. Did I pick up that mission? Yeah, so I've said the dog's name and now she's looking at me. Orders for Sam. Aid package for Port Knot City. Right. Okay. Okay. Apparently, I thought it was Friday. That happened to my boss there last week. He scheduled a meeting on Thursday at 2 o'clock, and I was like, Jesus, what's this all about? Brought the whole team on, and he's like, oh, I thought it was Friday. And then he was so disappointed to find out it was actually Thursday. I've never known Steam Train to be in time. See, Steam Train is never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to. I was waiting for you to go live yesterday. Went live on Thursday. I think you were here. It's a 50 kg of package.
That's a transfusion bag containing blood.
It's my blood. Now, I think I might have to go and rest up first before I go on this trip, because... Right, we'll load all. Let's say sperm and eggs. Sperm and...
I had to work fast with what we had.
blood grenades. My goodness.
Modified hand grenade. But you...
We believe.
We do have loads. There's a lot of stuff, but you know what? We can put a lot of it on our bike as well. Steam Train, if I had known, I would have live just for you. I feel bad now. Not as bad as Sam does, because of the weight of this. See, every now and again, you have to go get rest up, you have to shower, you have to sleep. You have to fall over, just for no reason. Sam, can you stop? Can you calm down?
Your work is greatly
Oh no, you can stand still. A second ago, we couldn't even walk forward 2 paces without falling over. No, you can stand still. Well, Sam, it's not good enough as a kid. Dog is tired. Look at her Wayne. Because your stamina and everything does naturally deplete while it's playing, so you do have to come in and rest every so often and handcuff yourself to the bed for some unknown reason.
Good morning, Sam. Blood collection complete.
Samwise Gamgee. Full of took.
Right, we need to take a shower and take a piss. See, because I'm bald, you know, it's head and shoulders. Do I get a discount and just get shoulders? I think it's discrimination against the follically challenged. Also, not a feckin' hair in that man's legs. Samwise is the best gardener in a Hobbit.
Son of a bitch!
This is true. And he was the true hero of Lord of the Rings. That Frodo boy. Can't trust him. How quick did he get changed? And we shall do a poop. Because we're classy men. Doesn't look like a comfortable toilet though. He didn't pull down his trousers, did he? Is there a wee flap? It doesn't look like a nice comfortable toilet to sit on, does it? Right, so taking a pee, taking a poo. The Wayne is grand. Equipment rack. Change color scheme. Ooh, fancy. This will probably just keep... Right, so I have sunglasses. I do wear my sunglasses at night. We'll go green. Green, nice green cap. Why is it still highlighted though? Proceed. We can examine table and drink our energy drinks. We're hunting them monsters. Fuck me, down that one quick. Indigestion. Heartburn, they fuck. Right. Stamina increased by 10%. Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're good. When they die of a heart attack. Hey, look at me for a second, son. Look at me, look at. Right. We'll make our way to the port now. See if I can put on my hat. Can I put on my hat? How do I put on my hat? Cargo orders. Is it on cargo? No. No, 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 no. There, it's a wee bit better. If I can fire some of it into the motorcycle as well, it'll be a big help. I run along the avenue.
Beginning scan. Have a pleasant journey.
Deliver all 4 containers. Materials and metals deliver West not capital. Capital not city. Oh, so there's one's going that way. Is there? One's going that way as well? Oh, I'm there. Oh, I'm already there. Right, okay. So I have to go here and deliver metals. And then go up here to retrieve stuff from a ruined factory. Right, okay. And you know what? We can do this along the way. This is good. This is good. This is fine. And then our last one is going to be here. Right, okay. Cool beans. The other thing that worries me is with the increased weight now, I will have to... Well, I suppose I'm stopping off first as well. So the extra weight isn't going to be too much of an issue. We have this. Bike is fully charged. I'm punching it for some weird reason. I will drop off this, and this, and my extra boots as well. Blood bags, right, okay. Carry on back. Load on the reverse trike. Cool beans. Anything else that's particularly heavy I can take off. The metals. Could I load that on bike? Cool beans. Right, okay. Okay. I don't have the required number of items, but that's because it's on my bicycle. No, I might move away from it. Right, can you optimize myself? Optimize Prime. Right, cool beans. Let's go! It's handy as well, see later on when you get the big truck. Drive the big truck. And you could just load it up with stuff. Right, I have to be careful with my driving here. Because I can come off the bike and actually damage my shit.
Sam, looks like you've got some more orders to take care of. Remember, once you get to Port Knot City, you'll be crossing the lake. So you should make any pending deliveries before then. Take a look at your map and figure out the most efficient way to get to all the places you need to go.
I know. Where actually is the place I'm going? It is directly in front of me. I can't see it. It's probably behind a mountain somewhere. Right, okay. It's fine. It's fine. Go this way. Path of least resistance. I am traveling through quite a bit of water here, which I'm not a fan of. But I think we're through the worst of it now. Yes, not too bad. Not too bad at all. shit, I've gone the wrong way. This way. Fuck. Fuckity fuck. I don't see any BTs, which is good. I don't normally mean to be messing up. Sam Fanning, what is happening? Nicely job. I don't like to miss a lot of the wee deliveries along the way, but it's because I'm carrying mission critical stuff, I don't want to be damaging it. Right, okay, I can see where I'm going now. There was a mountain in the way. That was my issue. I wonder if there's any more bridges built down here. Be nice. Whoa! Whoa! Oh, we've had some progress at the moment. I might actually take a quick break and grab myself another drink. I'll be back in a second.
When the silence falls, empty throne waiting, something's building in the air, voices rising, the battle lines are drawn to your side, no going back now. Cast your vote of kings, crown the one that rules your heart. Vote of kings, tear the old world apart. Which legend takes the throne? Cast your vote of kings. Soldiers from distant lands, crystals and blades colliding, stealth from shadows, time itself rewinding. The battle lines are drawn, choose your side, history in your hands. Cast your vote of kings, crown the one that rules your heart. Vote of kings, tear the old world apart. Which legend takes the throne? Cast your vote of kings. 7 versus 8, snake versus shine time, every memory at stake. Remember when we first believed, this was turned to prophecy. Now decide what kingdoms bleed.
You know what? Fair play. It wouldn't have been my pick out of the two, but I was outvoted. Democracy won. So let's check our top 10. So at the moment, Final Fantasy 9 has won it 4 times. Then Fallout New Vegas, Final Fantasy 7, Metal Gear Solid, Resident Evil 4, Advance Wars, Chrono Trigger, Dark Souls, Elder Scrolls Skyrim. I think the reason why Oddworld isn't appearing is because there's that many of them that have had 1 vote. So whenever we actually do go through and we vote for more of them, and it wins more times, it'll actually go up in the rankings as well, which is kind of cool. Let's go! Just put Skyrim. Todd won't mind. It just works. Ian, it just works. Whoa. Check. Oh, is that a charger? I don't need it. I don't need the... well, maybe I do, actually, if I'm going under this water. I would like to think that someone else would have made a bridge at some point. Because that's a bit deep for me. You know, where'd that charger go? There it is over there. Now, we might kind of have to if we're going to kind of loop around and see if we can find another bridge. I seen kind of Uncle Flange was playing that new Peter Molyneux game, Masters of Albion, and he was kind of, he said the game itself was good, but the UI was a bit meh. It was a bit buggy, I think was what he was saying about it. Oh, I don't like going on too deep. But we're in too deep and it's hard to keep up instead of going under. But we kind of need to make a delivery up here anyway. Right, this will automatically start charging. Nicely job. Right, Sam, why are you going that way for? Come on, Sam. Sammy. Dean. Sammy. Yes. Sammy. Make delivery. Deliveroo.
Delivering cargo.
I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad I'm here too. Of all the people to be here, I'm glad it was me. Look at another S rank. Look at that. I'm just... Fucking Sam, we're a good team. We're class.
Good work. New order available. Delivery terminal for further.
So many orders. Take on orders. Take on me. Fish from a BT area. Fuck away off. Structure repair device lost during delivery. Metals. He's done it again. Who's done it again? What are we talking about? I didn't do it. Was it me? Can't prove anything. I don't really want to do any of these. That one is the whole way back the way I came. I don't want to go that way. That one. Retrievals. Lost devices during delivery. Seems like it's just over there though. SS. Yeah, this is true. This is true. Fuck it. I don't want to do anything. I ain't here to do all your jobs for you, except that. Except that. 100% am.
Weapons restrictions lifted.
Fancy clothes. Lad, what's happening? And we're through. You ain't catching me, brother. Unless you got a motorbike of your own. I'm a shooting star. Shooting through the sky like a tiger. Disconnected from Chiral network. There was one I had to do though, wasn't it? It was up here, actually. It was up here to the... that direction. That direction? This might actually connect me to the Chiral network if I get it done. This is probably quicker walking, but fuck it, let's go. We just brute force and ignorance it. It's like when we were playing Halo and you smash a Warthog and the places it shouldn't go. It's also date night.
Beginning scan. Weapons detected. All weapons will be locked until departure. All clear. Welcome, Sam Porter Bridges.
Welcome, Sam Porter Bridges. I could probably fire some of this stuff on my back into my personal locker when I'm here. Yeah, all this sperm and eggs. Sperm and eggs. Load in personal locker. I got that sperm and eggs. And now we're climbing up here.
Weapons restrictions lifted.
Sperm and eggs just sounds like some sort of English dish that was named years ago, like Toad in the Hole or Spotted Dick. Approaching destination. Where the fuck is it? Right, there's metals, climbing anchor. Right, so it's over here on the other side. It looks like it's in a... Shit. It looks like it's in a... Need to go to an angle. It looks like it's in one of them. That one is moving. That's not good.
Tell me what you want.
Treat. Bitch.
You're at a wedding. Why are you
excuse me?
getting dog treats?
No.
What are you doing?
What do you say?
Bitch.
No. No.
No, I'm not.
I'm not gonna give you a treat if you call me that. What do you say?
Please. Please. Please.
Do it, lady.
Bitch. Please.
You said, I'm at a wedding, I can't hear you. I'm at home making Scotch eggs. What the fuck? We're just home from the wedding. Ah, right. She didn't even stay about a bit later, no? Sir, what is happening? Yeah, at the time I was. Jesus, what time is that to be heading on a wedding? It's only 10 o'clock. We get home for the dog. Ah, you didn't get a dog sitter. Actually, hooks up that way. You could have got him to do it. He's out in the pub as well, messaging him. Right, so doggo gets a treat. Cleo, where are you? I can hear you. I can hear you breathing. There we go, darling. There we go. So we treat for the puppers. Crazy Scotch egg. It is. It's a mad hour than making Scotch eggs. We're Flemish. Love Scotch eggs, chicken arrabbiata, and chili. I met Steve Colden and took him for a W. Hook us up this way and didn't invite. I know. Sure, I didn't even know himself. He just messaged in saying I'm on the pub. I'm just checking in with per wee lurk. Gotta have hot sauce. And why do you not like food? Why do you ruin food for? Doggo got a retreat. Good gear. Good gear. Was it a good wedding though? Did you have fun? I love food. You fucking hate food. You fucking destroy food with hot sauce. It's good, eh? Oh, happy days.
Sam, you should be coming up on that cargo. And a boatload of mules, no doubt. Stay
Well,
outside
that's...
and try not to make too much noise if they're within earshot. We don't want this going sideways.
Sideways is my job. I don't think I've done this before. Right, okay. Look at the scale. Is he facing the wrong way? Fool of a took. Could I zap him? Just completely wasted. Come on, lad. Let's go. He's down. Is everyone going to run at me now? They got medals. Go tickle his bum. How's the stranding of death going? It's good. Part of the problem is that it was in Lurgan. Ah, I see. Hang on, did the dog get a snack? See that? I brought up the camera and everything. You fucking have you been drinking, Flamash? Have you been consuming Scotch eggs whilst on alcohol? He just ran past me. Okay, he's down. This guy is a menace. Fucking menace is what he is. Let me hit you. Let me hit you. No, you don't hit me. I hit you. You're breaking the rules. You're cheating. I don't like it. I haven't had a drink since the 14th of February. Scotch and eggs. Ian, you're right. That's the best way to do it, isn't it? Did Kiddo 1 have a nice birthday? He did. He had a phenomenal birthday. He really enjoyed it. Did you see the Funko Pop? My sister got him. It was a thing of legendary. No, where was she? Where's she? It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So you've probably seen people do it before anyway, but my sister got a Funko Pop made up with his in his own image. Came with his wee name and everything on it. It's in there. With his Funko Pop. No, it's not in the Discord now. Just put the picture there. I would love to get one made of myself, but it would just be an absolute waste of money because it's just generic bald. It's like, oh, what kind of hair you want to put on? Just no hair. Just make it bald as fuck. I have to go down the hole. Where do I have to go for this post box? Was the item on one of those guys? No, probably have to go down here. Chasm, what's happening? And agreed, it was a good idea. It was a good idea. Also, Cam is out of focus. Cam is out of focus. There we go. Sorted. I was blurry! You're not out of focus. Flamash. You've lost your damn mind. Also, will we install a ladder or steps? No, let's just stack cars. It seems much easier. I don't know if this is where I'm supposed to go. Oh, there it is. There's the thing. Why is this locked? Ooh, fancy. It looks like it was effective. I don't know. It looks like a really bad idea. Right, so I have to take all this data. I'm going to take the blood bag as well. Don't know about the medals. I might take the 50 because it can get heavy, and I have other stuff down there that I still need to transport.
Good work, Sam. I knew you'd get what we need.
I mean, you're criticizing, but those scars made a nice path.
Not that we were planning to head inside just yet.
See, it works in terms of a game, but see if you were standing this in real life, your foot would be going through things, getting stuck on pipes. It's not an effective way. You'd go through that window and sunroof at some point. It's not an effective way to be going in and out of buildings. I'm sorry, but, you know, I'm criticizing these guys. I don't think their plan was effective at all. Also, right, this is an apocalypse. Why are people parking up here? How did these cars end up on top of this mountain? Fucking furry cars everywhere. What was this building? What was it? I don't even know what that was, but there was cars parked up here. Plethora, a multitude. An absolute smorgasbord of cars, and I don't know why. These boys are all kipping. They're all sleeping it out. I was going to get two made for Flamash, put them on top of my man kit, but it wouldn't work by they arrived in time. Ah, I see. And how do you make it look very angry and complaining? Exactly. You're right, Sarah. You're right in what you're saying. Yeah, we're going to take it easy going down here, otherwise we're going to slip and slide! As an old man, this is how I handle any sort of incline now. The fear of twisting or falling or just sliding and making a fool of myself is too immense. Kaz, I called into your stream as well earlier on. You were playing, I think it was Trackmania. How did you get on with that? Shout out, there's one. Recently started streaming. I think I have 3 more days left as well until I can change my bot's name from Mrs. Mailbox. Would you say that you are inclined to go deliver packages this way? Oh, Flemish, I've become a Oh, Sam. I'm a bad influence on you. I have corrupted you. But I'm rubbing off on me. Oh, you wish. Buy me dinner first. No. Where is...
The paths we walk become roads, Sam. See the tracks you left behind? They tell a story.
I mean, just don't turn him on. He says he's like a dog. I say, Grey Bear, hello, what is happening? I bring Scotch eggs and hot sauce. No, I want neither of those things. You could bring Scotch and Cadbury's cream eggs. Those things I would take. You will get both of them, accept them. I don't know. I don't know, man. That sounds a bit pushy. It sounds a bit manosphere-y, if you ask me. What is supposed to be delivered here, right? So... First, right, that's the first aid has to go that way. Not much. Found another bald Irishman on here who streams. And that was enough for me. Are you one yourself? Are you a bald Irishman who streams too? Sleepiness is rapidly descending, so I'll be away. Teddy isn't Irish, but he's bald, beardy, and he streams. Scotch eggs are rotten. I'm not a huge fan of them. I don't know why he eats them so much. They're pretty popping them, man. Yes, I've been doing Trackmania for now. Until decent Microsoft, thank you for... Not a problem. Thank you very much for coming on. It's an epidemic. I know. We're breeding. We're breeding. Let's see. What's this emote? What's this emote?
Thank you for the follow.
Oh, thank you for the follow. I am going to follow you back as well because that sounds like a good time. I really like that emote as well. That's quite good. Proud to be bald. Proud to be bald. No, you stay. Teddy, you want to go to bed? You go. You climb in the bed, buddy. You just get yourself all nice and cozy. Moisturize that scalp. Let's go. I'd go to town and Scotch egg right about now. I don't know. I wouldn't. Cheese and crackers, I think. See if I had a cheese board with some crackers. It's no more WKD for you. No drink since 14th of February. Why are you keeping track of it? When you haven't drunk since Valentine's? I know. And he's still that bad. Does he get better with alcohol? Or does it get worse? I thought I had delivered package here. But apparently not. Where does it... Oh, it has to go down there. Right, okay. Thank God I brought my motorbike. Oh, if they fucking pick up my stuff. Or will that transport because it's on my private? Because it's in my private locker. No, it won't. If they bring it all with me. If they bring all my sperm with me. Shit. If I load it on my bike, how much of it will go on the bike? You know, it's loaded on the bike. Fuck it, let's go. He's certainly... Define worse, he's certainly more talkative. That's not a good thing. So I've loaded it all onto the bicycle. We are fucking stacked with stuff. Now we have to try and not fall over.
Weapons restrictions lifted.
But interesting. You know what, Craig? Loving it. Love Death Stranding. I haven't played the sequel. I want to play the sequel as well. I want to play through this. Do you know the bike has a boost? Yes, I do know the bike has a boost. But I am running kind of low on energy, so... I fucking didn't until the second playthrough. No way! That's like a time you didn't know how to pause and your wife had to tell you. Because the sign on 15th of February, I'm not drinking ever again. Because you got locked in a McDonald's. You got lost in a McDonald's toilet. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. This is a really underrated game, I think. A lot of people, the reviews came out at the time, and like IGN and stuff was just like, oh, it's a walking simulator. It's not. There is quite a bit of walking in the game, but it's a suspenseful game. It's a horror game. Does a bit of everything. Has combat in it. You know, it has problem solving when you have to try and plan your routes and stuff. It's a great game. Seen him from McDonald's. Yeah, I saved him from McDonald's toilets. That's right. It's Postman Pat, the game. It is, but with monsters. You enjoyed the wedding? They're not at the wedding anymore. They've gone home for Scotch eggs. No game in the history of man has used the pause button. RE6 does. It does, yeah, yeah. You could have just checked that Flemish instead of just on stream throwing a wee hissy fit. I'm home eating Scotch eggs. You're a madman. Came home for Scotch eggs. I have never seen Scotch eggs used so much in a conversation before in my entire fucking life. It's like, whenever he's making himself lunch for the week, he won't say lunch. He will not just say the name, you know, the actual type of meal it is. He will go, I'm making chicken arrabbiata, chicken arrabbiata, chicken arrabbiata, and then he keeps saying it. I knew the word before. I've heard it before. I've heard chefs and seen it on menus and stuff. I've never heard it said so much in my fucking life in a Flemish stream. So that's why anyone on here who's not following needs to follow him, just to hear him say food over and over again. The full name of the food as well, not even just part of it. Well, try and be me when you keep bringing up fucking cheese boards. Well, buy your wife a cheese board then. Sounds like a professional baby steps. I've enjoyed that. Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. I would say so. It's a good game, though. It's managing your cargo and stuff's quite good. The music's great in it, as I'm listening to right now. Yep, should let your wife have a cheese... See, Flemish is a cheese board denier. Sierra's mum wanted to buy him a cheese board, and he said, under no circumstance will you buy my wife a cheese board. This is not happening. I thought it was a bit mad, but you know what? Who am I, the judge? I love food and talking about it. I think most of us do. That's the thing as well. Whenever people are talking about, you know, going off things and stuff, and addictions, food is a difficult one because it's the one thing that you can't go without. So no matter what, you can't go cold turkey and not have food. So when you're trying to be healthy and stuff, it always has to be in your life, and it's very difficult to get to that point where you're being healthy about it. No, that's so much. Yeah, and he said no. He said no. Cheese board's not on the table as dessert, but otherwise enjoyable. I enjoy cheese board. I said I've never seen her eating fancy cheese, so I can't see her having the cheese board. The cheese doesn't even have to be particularly fancy. It could be a nice sweet cheddar, nice sweet sharp cheddar. Could be a bit of Gouda. You know, you're a cheese denier. That's what. And whenever I heard about it, I thought, how dare he? How dare he? I camembert his attitude towards the cheese boards. Ever he did lovely buy me a coffee machine. No, you have to let the coffee machine go. He's bought himself 12 things since. It's fine. You know, you can ride the bike down there. Yeah, but I want to put up there. I like to park it in its proper place. If only he could have let me have a cheese board. Yes, let's go. But it charges down there. I don't give a shit. I will park it up there because that's where it's parked. That's the rules. Did I drive my car into my house? No. That's it, Sierra. You've completed Twitch. Well done. You're not really arc too much. I know, and Flemish made a joke earlier as well. But you're wasting time. I'm not. I'm enjoying the game. I'm relaxing. I'm having fun. All the ruined factory data. Is this game time-based? No, it's not. Some of the missions, they can be, but it's like 45 minutes. There's no chance of taking 45 minutes to get over there with that. It took like 8. In fact, there's a new score. I've got nothing but S ranks. Am I getting higher than an S rank? No, fuck up then. Let him do what he wants and shush. Exactly, sir. Thank God you're on my side. Had him for me. Just violence. Just violence. Choose violence at all times. What are you giving me now? Oh, it's a new gun. Support skeleton. Ooh, no bones about it, hey?
Fuck.
See you around.
Those S-ranks will disappear in time. You are chatting through yours. Suppose there's worse people to hang out with. This is true. How do I add this?
Ah!
Ready? What's happening?
I'm sorry.
Well, I just got here and the lady screamed at me.
This brains.
I know. They knew you were there, Ready? That's what happened. Ready? What is the story? How are you getting on, brother? Where did that skeleton go? That's normal. Nope. Is it not? Rest in private room. Does this... I want to go in the private room because I think I get a support skeleton now. Which means I can potentially carry more or move faster. Doing well. Enjoyed the sun and the comfort of my living room chair. I was the same. I was going to go out and do the garden and then I decided to nap instead. And it was wonderful. It was everything I thought it would be and more. I had 2 naps up on my bed and 1 nap on the sofa. And it was great. Like, I know there's people who'll be all, oh, would you not be better going outside and enjoying the sunshine? I am a ginger man who is also bald. I am like a shite vampire. I'm allergic to sunshine. Are you secretly a cat? You know what? I have been known to be a bit of a pussy in the past. Those of triple name, I'm impressed. Fabulous day, always not. Yep. I like seeing the sunshine from inside. I know, exactly, exactly. We shouldn't be made to go outside just because there's a giant ball of fire in the sky. Fucking madness is that. I don't want to change the color scheme, but how do I change... I do have a gun. I have a gun. Like seeing the beautiful skies. Yeah, I know. Wish I heard it. Not being killed immediately by the sun makes you a decent vampire. It is almost immediate, though. I went to Florida once and fucking nearly died. Examine... No, I've already examined the weapon rank. How do I equip that skeleton? Unless I have to do a mission for it first. Maybe that's what the problem is. What's this? Use sync. It's like that band. End sync. Leave private room. Actually, Cuba, I think, was the hottest place I've ever been. It was like 40, 45 degrees. It was fucking... There's an item you fabricated, then whoop it on your weed... I mean, weed leggies! It's Mads! Pretty sure they're Chris's tall leggies. Well, you haven't met me in real life, so you don't know. I detest the heat. Riku, me and you are on the same page. From the nips up. That's all I have. There's actually nothing down below. It's just all completely gone. Flamos, you kind of missed it as well. I don't know if it's going to play again, but I changed your walk-on and I thought it was wonderful. And you never even had me on volume on to hear it. No, you didn't hear it. You didn't even fucking look me.
Works another Northern Irish streamer. Really funny, really cool.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, that's so nice. So nice. I had a test the heat. Once went to Turkey, got a massage with oil, and then out in for. So you just cooked yourself. That's AI. It's not AI. You said it the other day. And I got it from your VOD. Class. He fucking loves me. He fucking loves me. It's because I drugged him. Listen, he hasn't drunk since the 14th of February, but he's been drugged as fuck. Can't prove it, go delete that clip. It's fine, I've already downloaded it. I have a video of you saying it. How do you think I got the audio? Crackled like a little pig. Therein lies the danger, really, isn't it? Shove things into hot sauce. He doesn't know. Oh, I know. He'll never taste it. The man has no taste buds left. Fabricate. Skeleton support. Let's go. Did we equip it? It looks like we equipped it. Thank God you said hot sauce. I thought you were going to say something else. Shoved it in his ass. Did you smell bacon? Wrecked him. Damn near killed him. He's just very anal about things. It was 44 for 2 days when I was in Bulgaria. It's fucking mental, man. So we now have a battery-powered support skeleton.
Have a pleasant journey.
That's too warm. That's too warm. Actually, it was quite funny when we went to Cuba. We were staying in a resort, and there was like an induction thing in the resort. And the fella, he wasn't being racist. It was the most helpful advice that he ever gave Ellis. He sat us all down in a room and said, listen, first thing I'm going to say, you people need to remember you're white. And some people, you could tell, they were getting a bit annoyed by it. And I was like, and he's like, you people are white. Do not be going outside at certain times of the day because it is too hot. Even if you're wearing Factor 50, you will burn. And 100% right. 100% right. We need to remember that the local people were fine. They were used to the heat. They were grand. And as soon as we went outside, we just got melted and burned. I'm pretty sure I always did the most unfully stupid thing I've ever done. I was brutally drunk. The funniest thing I've ever seen was, actually, I never even seen it, but somebody laying down to sunbathe and getting the bottoms of their feet sunburned.
Weapons restrictions lifted.
Yes, I want to punch my bike. Right, so now I need to make my way. Making my way. I don't think... What am I going there for? I think I need to make my way now towards Port Knot City. Gotham City!
Clear. Weapons detected. All weapons will be locked until departure. All weapons restrictions lifted.
Stay 2, by the way. Oh my god, I had one back length blister. That's the worst part when it all blusters up as well. It's a nightmare. You know what, I'm just going to conserve my energy because God knows what's up here ahead of me. Yeah, it's sometimes nice to go out in the sunshine, but it can be not worth it as well at the same time. Especially when it gets like that. Look, it's fair to feckin' hot. Right, so I can see BTs. My best to go off the beaten path and just kind of avoid them. It's easier to warm up than it is to cool down. Yeah, I'll see when it's really hot. I prefer being cold to warm, 100%. I prefer it in the winter. If I can come on and heat up, it's grand. If I have to cool down, it's a lot more effort. I had a tiny blister on my right foot when I went to Rome a few years ago. It was an agony. Never mind the whole black... that's why I kind of like how Australia and all do it, where your moisturizer automatically has sun cream in it. I resent being called a back length blister. For being cold too, because you can warm up, you can do. And it's nice to warm up. It's nice when you're cold and you heat yourself up. The other way is a bit shitty. I probably shouldn't have brought my bike this way. I regret fucking everything. Because these feckers are all over the shop. Let's go! Let's fucking tear through. They'll never find us. Oh shit! Shit! No! No! We got out. We got away. Run. Sam, move your fucking ass. It's a very, very good sunburn. Thankfully, it'll be mid-low 20s in Australia, but still be careful, McKen. Still wear sun cream. It's the humidity that gets you. You know what they say? Teach a man to make a fire and he'll be warm through the night. Set a man on fire, be warm the rest of his short, miserable life. But some bloke at the bar who was leaving the next day said how much I suffered and kindly saved me. Aw. Was it me? Did you get me gold cards? How many gold cards did you get me? They're coming into their winters. I have no idea. It's a mad upside down place. Will you stop it? If you stop just being at it, you know, it's not going to be as bad. I'll just force my way through here. The Wayne is not doing well. That did not go smoothly. Only two. Already went to the high 20s, 30s. Mackenzie's going very, very soon as well. Another starts in June, I think. I'm going Monday. It's like 2 days of traveling as well, you were saying the last time? Mental. I probably shouldn't have taken my motorbike through there, but, you know, pick it. We risked it for the biscuit. We're through. And now we've a massive hill to go down. Fuck it! Ah! Yeah. We're just going to coast. We're going to coast. So we're not using any power. We'll coast down the hill. We're fine. We're fine. Leave on Monday. Get there Wednesday time. Ooh, look at this. This game's fucking class. It probably meant for me to walk through there, and I just brute forced it with a motorbike. But I'm like, I'm taking my motorbike anywhere I go now. I love the music on this game. It's atmospheric and a bit depressing at the same time. Look at all the hands over my luggage too. Dirty, dirty bastards. Trying to get a hold of it. I'll take pictures and send the script. Ooh, very nice. Thank you, McKenzie. Travel safe as well. Get plenty of sun cream in you. Plenty of liquids. Liquid. My batteries will recharge whilst on the grid. The Wayne is feckin' petrified. I hope you have fun as well, Mackenzie. I hope you enjoy it. They're Wednesday time to travel on your birthday. Amazing. Then you can show me them. Well, much like there's no Scotch eggs here. What? How much the Scotch egg is. Yeah, eggy weggy on the inside, covered in sausage. I wish I'd gobble myself down. What the actual fuck, man? There's people on OnlyFans aren't even that blatant. Although I still love the fact that we gave shoutouts to Amaranth and Flamash's stream. 'Tis the only way. Gag on myself? My god. How? And this is what you're like when you don't drink. Sarah, control that man.
So you here to usher us into a new Cairo lane?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, go for it. Been waiting forever and a day for this.
When I do drink, I'm like this, but louder. How is the volume more? Robots and kittens, howdy, what is happening? I'm more obnoxious. I get very dancey when I drink. As Hook and Waffles and Happy Irish can attest to. You're meant to be my wife? Oh, getting possessive now. She is an independent lady. Under the rules and restrictions of no man. And now we're on the Cairo network, we'll probably have bridges and stuff now. Which is good. Mate.
Where'd you get that?
Get what? What are you talking about? Victor, stop pointing your finger at me. You point one finger at me, you have three pointing back at you.
Same as mine. Where the hell did you get it?
Yeah, I can't really say.
You Norman and the Ritas? I am. Man, fucking love this game. Very, very good. Have you played it yourself?
Igor.
Who are you kidding me? CR, fair play. Fair play.
So, what? He just gave one of these to you. Why?
I was there with him at the end.
Oh, it must be Igor's brother.
Things went to shit. There's BTs everywhere.
Igor's the guy at the very start, remember, was in the corpse disposal?
So he told me to take it and run.
Right. So what's your story? You lived through a catastrophe like that, only to keep on doing the same work?
We streamed all of it back when we actually streamed. Do you not stream anymore yourself? No?
Been a long time coming, I suppose.
You get ebbs and flows like that as well. Times you just want to hang out on Twitch and just kind of socialize, and then other times you want to get on it. One of my favorite games was one I played last year, was the first Berserker Kazan. And I called into someone's stream last night who was playing it, and just watching someone play through it again, I was just like, oh, so good. I don't know what he's giving me. What is it? They're flat out giving me grenades. Jeepers. Bruno Mars will be all over the place with this. You get around to finishing this game. Can't believe I never did. I'm the same, never finished it. But I'm going to finish this, and I'm going to play the second one as well, because apparently the second one's great.
A part of the UCA, their data, a part of our shared wisdom. With enough time and enough Cairo printers, they'll be able to build ships. And one day, the waters will be ours again.
Second does look amazing. We lost our apartment, but we're back to streaming. We're both in the same spot. Oh, no way.
Any city that joins the UCA becomes a bigger target for the terrorists. But we have to
Well, I hope you get sorted soon.
press on. No matter what, the rest of America is
I think I called Andy for your streams before as well. They were good crack.
and connect them to the Chiral network. I know you can reach them. Make us whole again.
That's your sister. Don't make her whole again. It's weird.
Thanks. One more C in the UCA, huh?
I recognize the name there. Took me a wee second. Second looks amazing. It does. It does. Kojima makes great games, but sometimes they go a bit mental. They go a bit mad. I still have to laugh at the fact that Metal Gear Solid 4 has stole the record for the longest cutscene of a game. It isn't pulling me in. Well, maybe it should play harder. I heard that Charlie Cox is making another game again. Is he? Fair play. I've seen all the award red carpet stuff with him and Ben Starr. Been dipping into the second, but just can't get hooked to play it more than 45 minutes-ish. That's fair. That's fair.
Don't worry. Port Knot never gets the rain. Feel
So they do not get the rain? It happens, you get games like that. You never know, I might be the same. Oh, Norman's tired. Poor Norman. I really wish they had brought out the Silent Hills game. That looked great, and the PT demo was brilliant. The problem is, the console I had originally downloaded on, like, died, and I had to get a new one, so I don't even have a copy of it anymore. You and me both. And you can see where
blood collection complete.
Resident Evil 7 kind of came out of. And Visage and Madison are all very, very similar. Kind of, they got their vibes from that game because they seen how well the horror kind of did on it. Head for the Arbor. The PT was very good, very creepy. I've seen for a while as well, any console that had it installed sold for quite a bit. But if you ever had a, like, reset the hard drive or something on it, you were fucked. Needed to happen too. Yeah, I think it did. I think it needed that sort of horror reset. And I do like the way in 9 it kind of jumps between the kind of suspenseful horror and action based. I still prefer Resident Evil 2 though. The remake of 2 is brilliant. I have to get kind of tied down as well so we can do the co-op for Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6, just so we can get them done. And then move on to the other ones. And so, well, man, hey. Always socialising, always off doing stuff. Can't be talking to him. What equipment is it looking for me to fabricate now? Blood bags. I've got all that stuff. If you get stuck in RE5, I would do it with you. Yeah, but you'd spoil it all. Me and Hamilton both experienced it for the same time, so we'd both be equally shit. Refuse to play 6 ever again, though. No. Cyberpunk. Wait, I thought there was never rain here. Wouldn't spoil for story-wise or even events that's coming up. I think you would see you vibrating in your chair, wanting to tell me, you'd be all... Shit's going down. This is Stranger Danger. They are too close to my personal space. I enjoyed RE5, just gave me motion sickness surprisingly. Some games can do that. There was one that came out years ago called The Descent that did that for me. It was like a wee spaceship game, but because of the way it rotated, it made me very, very sick. I can see, yeah, 100%. It's Skull Jesus.
The name's Higgs.
It's Troy Baker! Yay! Promotion blur off in every game now. Oh yeah, Control's the same. Control's very good, I enjoy Control.
So it was you that dragged him into all this.
Preferred Skill Jesus. Nope.
Bloodied but unvowed.
Feckin' love Troy Baker.
What's that? Bridget Strand is dead.
How could you tell that from smelling me? That's weird.
President dead and burned. Oh, and now the girl's been chosen to take Mommy's place. Well, that won't wash. She's not cut
Just
out
knows
for
like a raw with
politics,
it.
is she?
Yeah. That's all well and good, but how can you smell events from somebody, you know, stuff that's happened in the past? Like, you can't walk up to somebody, smell them, and say, oh, you got a letter in from BT earlier on today.
Oh, but don't worry. I'll find her. And I'll keep her real safe.
You know, because it's Troy Baker, I feel inclined to trust him. I feel like he's telling me the truth.
I've come to understand the truth.
You can smell tea, yeah. Or Scotch eggs. Stinky Scotch eggs covered in hot sauce. Depends how much I'm going to drink it. Well, that's true.
She's not like you or me. Dooms ain't her thing. And she's more into destruction on a worldwide scale. An extinction entity.
I like his design. It's very Cobra-esque, isn't it? You with the
It's so hard to form connections
poncho.
when you can't shake hands. Fortunately, I've got a good connection to
Maybe Troy Baker should smell himself. You know what? You know what? I'm going to say something, and I don't care how it sounds, but you can tell by the looks of Troy Baker, he smells amazing. Do you ever just look at somebody and go, I bet the 100% they smell really good? Troy Baker smells amazing. Troy Baker likes the smell of his own farts. You fucking hate Troy Baker. You leave him alone.
this world.
And his farts probably smell like raspberries.
Our sweet little angel of death.
I'm undecided on him. He seems like he's becoming reasonable again, but he's becoming a bit of a ball bag again. I don't even know what you're basing this on. You're just mad. Sitting there munching on Scotch eggs, going, oh, I love Resident Evil 6. He's fallen out with Nolan North. Make up your mind, which one is it? I know! See, are you married this? Let's get to the stage we're going to start judging you on it. Well, it seems like he's wising up, but he's now up his own ass again. What are you basing this on? Leave him alone. See if you slag off Ben Starr, I'm going to come over and kick you in the jit. Also believe that he's all for AI voice acting at some point.
Isn't this what you've been waiting for this whole time?
Like, he's quite nice to me. He is here, he is. Ben Sator.
If you're anything like me,
184.
you absolutely love me.
You know what? I fucking do. You can see all the social media stuff. He is class. Ben Sator. Half man, half horse. You'd add to that counter. You said it every time. Every time.
Heads up, Sam. According to our damage assessments,
Well, this is
it would
fun.
only take a single void out to total Port Knot City. A single BT allowed to make contact with a civilian
Alright.
would be enough.
I have
We
grenades.
can't let that happen. You've got to deal
I
with
can
that
pee.
BT right now.
Let's chuck a grenade at it. Let's chuck a grenade at it. Can I shoot it? Electrocuting it does nothing. Run! Run, you fool. Should probably add all. Oh, Jesus, the counter doesn't go that high. But we've loads of grenades, but I don't have anything, unless I'm going to walk over and punch it. I don't know what I'm supposed to be using to murder this thing. Footwear almost ruined. Ah, for God's sake. Who would have thought all this biotar would ruin my footwear? Am I supposed to be doing something or just running away? Well, that's fun. And we're fucked. Oh, what's this? What the fuck? What are you doing? What are you giving me? Grenades? Blood bags? Alright, that's kind of cool. Legolas, what's happening? So what do we have here then? We are playing some Death Stranding. It's a bit mad. I'm not gonna lie. But you know what? It's a good crack. I just keep chucking grenades at it. Is that going to kill it? Oh, it is actually taking down its health. Okie dokie. Just shoot it though. Oh, shot me. It shot me. It shot me. It shot me. It looks mad. Oh, it is. It's Hideo Kojima. It's the guy that did Metal Gear Solid. It is mental. Much like him. And blood bag. Canteen. Grenade. Grenade. I have a baby as well. There's a little baby on my belly. The baby helps me see ghosts. That's not in a weird sort of Derek Acora kind of way. Well, actually, maybe. Maybe in a weird Derek Acora kind of way. Ah, I fell down. I fell down. My shoes are fucked. My shoes are fucked. Run! Run, you silly man. There's a weird white ghost as well giving me grenades. I don't know why. Like a Sixth Sense, I see dead people. A little bit, yeah, yeah. There's been a massive, world extinction event that happened. These blokes are all showing up now, these kind of weird ghosty boys. And they're being a bit of a menace, if I'm perfectly honest. You know, there's definite shenanigans with them. Pick up that. We're going to climb up here. We're going to climb up here. No, we're not. Climb. Climb, you fool. That is a good way to describe it. That is. Ah, shit. I've lost all my shit. And the baby's crying, which isn't ideal. He is taking damage to the grenades, so I'm just going to stick with that. And there seems to be magic people giving me grenades, which, fuck, I have no idea what that's about. But the baby's crying. Would you look at the baby? But Legolas, what is happening with you? What is the story? How are you getting on? Grenade. Bruno Mars ain't here, so he's not going to catch no grenades for us. Just gonna keep fucking grenades on him now then. Apparently that's what we do. I have nothing else to hit him with. We've got nothing. What are you throwing that down there for? I'm not going to get it. I'm gonna have to fucking get it on it. Run! Fly, you fool! I love the fact that I'm just stacking up loads of boxes of shit. Right, run. My shoes are nearly fecked. Right, up here. Up here. Right, we're going to start throwing grenades at him again. I'd catch a grenade for you. Oh, grand. Just actually getting a bit of peace to check you out. Feels like it's been ages. It has, but Jesus, you've been flat out. I'm just picking up all the shit again. Jump! Oh no! Chat, is the box collecting about? I feel like I'm lost. What? What are we talking about? Oh no! We're getting shot by a school bus, and we see how we get on from there. If you think this is mad, you want to see whenever it gets on the cutscenes. It just goes absolutely bonkers. Right. We need a bit of height. I think he only has really one more on him before he dies. Look at the amount of grenades I've collected. Got all the grenades. That might be him fucked. And I've teleported inside the building. He's dead! What is the box collecting your back about? So, this game got a bit of grief when it came out because they called it like a delivery simulator, and that's essentially what you're doing. You're traveling around different parts of America trying to open up networking and deliver supplies to people. It's fine. I feel like this game's telling you use certain item. It is. It's the only item I had. It's like, oh, here's grenades, but I want to use this item. Here's grenades. But it is a very, very good game. Really, really enjoy this game. But a lot of that is your cargo management as well, where you have to try and make sure that you're collecting everything properly. And where'd all the water go?
Incredible.
You have to make sure that you're collecting everything properly, and
Has defeated a BT.
you don't fall over, because it's one of them ones where if you fall over and damages stuff, you get less points. I played this for 93 hours. Spidey, you enjoyed it then? Have you played it before? I played a bit of it before. I didn't get very far into it. But the second one looks great. Mad Mickelson, everything's on it. This is Norman Reedus. This is new man out of The Walking Dead. He voices this character.
Perhaps we may yet be saved.
And
Proud, my friend.
great cast.
Emily's still waiting for you in the west.
And I was just kind of done with it. Did you play the second one, Spiny?
Get those supplies to Lake Knot
Maybe
City.
we showed it there as well, brother.
We're just getting
No, you
started.
stream a lot of Final Fantasy 8 speedruns and stuff too. I did not yet. The second one looks good. Flamash says he kind of gets burnt out with the second one quite a bit, but I'm going to have a wee look at it whenever I get a chance to. Where is this telling me to go? I have to go further on, right? Okay. You know, I might see if I can drop off some of these items that I have just stacked in the back. And these are just grenades. These are mostly grenades. Thanks for shit, not a problem. Thank you very much for coming on to the chat. So this game, whenever it came out, people started giving it grief saying it was a walking simulator, and you know, it was very, very boring. At the very start, there's a lot of walking, but you very, very quickly open up vehicles and stuff. So your actual deliveries get a lot easier. So I'm going to pop a lot of these into my private locker. Blood bags, I probably don't need that many of them either. Get all the ones off my back, all them grenades. We'll keep maybe one or two of them, just in case. But we don't need that many grenades. We're not going to get in that many fights, one would hope. So fire it all into the private locker. There's actually some stuff there that use grenades, and you can refill these, so... and use blood bags. That's the thing as well, you... let me go into my private locker and pop that stuff in. It's your bodily fluids. You can actually pass on the enemies as well, which is quite cool. Right, so if I select place in private locker, that's what I'm looking for. Same guy took me from the very start. See, this one pulled me in immediately. The second one, not doing it for me. That can happen. That can happen with games. Auto range. No! Auto range. Make myself a little bit more presentable. The second one was better received than the first. But I think the first one's still a great game. I'm going to take my motorbike as well. Oh, I need to change my shoes because my shoes are about to get fecked. There's my other shoes. I didn't bring them. Didn't bring a spare change of shoes. What an absolute fool! That's because you're more presentable. Look at me with hair. Look at. Yeah, it's because you already know the world. Asher! Welcome, man. Asher, thank you very much for the raid. How was your stream? What is happening? Are you playing more Kingdom Hearts, brother? A lot of people are playing it at the moment. Harax was playing it earlier. Riku's playing it as well. Greetings from Dalmasca. I get that reference. I played Final Fantasy 12. I get that. Merman, welcome on. Thank you very much for the raid. Thank you for choosing me. Anyone on my stream who doesn't know Asher, Asher is a wonderful member of the community. Plays a lot of Final Fantasy games and a lot of Souls games as well recently. Yeah, doing endgame stuff has been good fun. Nice one. But thank you again for choosing me for your raid. Anyone in your stream that doesn't know me, my name's Leoric. I am a streamer from Northern Ireland. That's what this awful noise is coming out of my mouth. And we play a variety of different games, but we're playing through Death Stranding at the moment. We've been doing a bit of Neo, a bit of Monster Hunter, a bit of everything. But anybody raids of the week goes in my Hall of Fame. So let's jump over. And Asher, there you are, 2 times this month as well, you absolute legend. Thank you so much again for choosing me for your raid. If you, Duchess, you can't relinquish the title. You're not the champion. You have to beat the champion first. Such a silly guy. Such a silly guy.
Everybody wants to be a cat because a cat's the only cat who knows where.
Just craftiness. But if you need to do any after raid care, definitely go do so. Just be tricky. Oh, there we go. Now you're champ. Now you're champ. Now you're going to relinquish the title. You're going to hold on to that. No, now you've relinquished the title. Straight away, it's gone. Anyone that's not following Duchess as well, she's a wonderful, wonderful friend. Official internet daughter. And really, really good friend of the community. So definitely give her a follow as well. There's a variety of different games. She's Danish and sound as fuck. And really funny, lovely community. But we're going to get back into some Death Stranding. Hype. 100%. What was I going down here for? I was changing my shoes. Private locker. I should have shoes in here. I think I popped ones on earlier. I did not. I can make shoes. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I can make shoes. I can make feet. Clothes. Yeah, you could cobble them together. Hey, my soul wasn't in it. That's a problem. Put on footwear. Yes, I would like to do that. Been vibing all evening, internet. I just want to say, hey, don't mind me, people. Not a problem. Changing your shoes. Soulful action. Appreciate it, Chasm. Nice one. I'm going to raid and dash, catch him sleep. Asher, thank you again. Anybody, like I said again, anyone's not following Asher, he is a lovely, lovely fella. And thank you very much for choosing me again for your raid.
Have a pleasant journey.
Burning alive. Please get it back. As my shoes were on my bike, that's why I couldn't find them. Oh, for God's sake. Ah, well, you know what? I need to make a new pair anyway. Dun. Hope everyone's having a good Saturday night as well. I am having a belter. Dude, I have OBS open to stream in Discord, and your follow scared me, but thank you. Legolas is Hook's sister, and she is lovely. Thank you as well for giving Duchess Cats a follow. You will not regret it. Wonderful streamer.
Gonna catch a ride on that boat, Sam? Before you do, be aware that you'll have to leave behind any cargo you haven't gotten around to delivering. It'd be my advice. Oh.
That's a wild bit of boxes on Norman. It is, but you know what? He needs them boxes. He needs them all. I'll be live tomorrow afternoon doing DIY stuff, so come chill at your own happy days. That is my Sunday sorted. That's just in Denmark as well, so I think it's an hour ahead of UK time.
Snack?
Num num. Protein.
I don't break that easy. Name notwithstanding.
Riku's champ.
Asshole too, right?
Higgs. He's the leader of a separatist group.
Seemed to me like he was controlling that BT.
That's level 7 for you. Higher, maybe.
Seems like
Let
you know
this
a lot
play well
about
and
him.
move that over a wee bit.
Used to work together. Guess you could say we had a contract.
You did business with terrorists? Whoever pays, huh?
He wasn't like that back then.
So what's your angle?
Need
You wanna
that
save
back?
The world, or you want to fuck it all up like him?
You see my title taken? I know. It's a wild WCW booking. Why is Trigger Fire playing up now?
I just wish things were different, alright?
Ooh.
Here's alright.
Oh.
Don't worry, she still floats.
We all float
We're the only
down
cargo
here.
left.
That just give me a wee second. I'm going to refund you for them because for some reason that didn't pop. Didn't fucking pop. Need to go on to my own ting. Flames getting higher. Bum, bum, ba, ba, bum, 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 bum. Can't even do it from there. Hold on. 1 second. Go into mod view. My name. Right there, giving you the points back to that one. I don't know why that didn't pop. That's a weird one. But I think you should go after him. I think you should go after him. That Riku boy's trying to steal your redeem. Just 1 second. Resume game. We're on a boat. I'm on a boat. I'm on a boat. Take a good look at me, because I'm sailing on a boat. There we go. Work on that.
Kyobu Masataka Oniwa! As I breathe,
I think it adds to the scene.
will not pass the castle gate!
I think it works. I think it works.
We should get there tomorrow.
Oh, hello, Papa. I was just
Silicos.
about to. What have you put on my head? I do not like it. You have made me to look like the silly cows, and I am not a silly cow.
Kinda
I am a
Dumaku.
strong and agile German shepherd. Kinda Dumaku.
Ricky, that's you beat. You beat, brother, now. You done? I moved it more center because I know that my camera was actually covering a part of it. I have a video going up on the
I told you before, Sam.
Zero Cash Tech one as well on how to actually create them move sources. It's going up on Tuesday. Per Norman.
Listen, I have something to ask of you. It has to do with that asshole. Higgs.
See, Thomas, she doesn't like Troy Baker either. I was just like, We don't like her either. You don't like her either? My God. What do you mean we? What do you mean we? Is it just you or does everybody not like her? Nah, she's a scrote. The actress or the character? Mike, welcome on. The actress. Right, okay. I know nothing about her. Not a clue. Mike, welcome on. What is happening? Getting more emotion out of dog food. I find dog food to be very emotional. I don't know what you're talking about. I think dog food can be quite emotional. Been here literally 2 hours. Been playing Dawn of War with a pal. Oh, very cool. Mike, I have an important question to ask you. Would you like to see my booba? You can answer in chat. Would you like to see my booba? We see. You will enjoy this. The booba! Got myself a whole pile of new t-shirts the other day and I thought, Mike will like that one. You'll enjoy that one. Got that and a few Final Fantasy VIII ones and a Resident Evil one as well. You look like you had no neck when you showed that off. I don't have a neck. I was born without a neck. That's why I only date people with necks. I'm a necromancer. Look, also, I forgot there's a Death Stranding documentary on Disney. Is there actually?
It's almost time to go, Sam.
RET. Yeah, I have a RE2T. RET2. RE2T? You really did? God damn it. What are you saying, god damn it? What are you saying, god damn it, for? You know, Riku, come on here. What attitude? What's happening? Connecting Worlds, I think it's called. Ooh. Let's have a look at that. Just had to explain the necromancer joke to him. He's probably sitting there going, I know there was a joke, but I didn't know what it meant. Necromancer, yes. I like that one. I thought that was good.
I don't want to go home.
I just didn't catch it. It went by so fast. Oh, I've heard that one before. That's how many a date night ends. To be fair, I think that his dad joke there because he spent most of the day with one of my uncles who loves for dad jokes. Your uncle sounds class.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Well, that was a bit inappropriate. I felt that kind of hurt a wee bit, but okay. Good film, that phenomenal film. That you know, get along. Is Leoric your uncle? I could be. I mean, I'm Duchess's dad, so I could be. Unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, no. You would like me to be your uncle. That's harsh. What? It was harsh. It was. It was true. It was very, very true. But you know, it doesn't. Sometimes things don't need to be said. It's like when people call me bald. I'm like, I know. You don't have to keep telling me over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
So you can't just come back.
Emotional, damn it!
I saw new and couldn't help myself. Leoric looks like an uncle. I am an uncle. I do have a niece. I've only met her a couple of times. She loves her in England. You're only old enough to be an older brother to me.
I'll be waiting.
I don't know. I am quite old. Like, I am exceptionally old. If Leoric didn't do dad jokes, I think it would actually fade away.
Come and find me.
It'd be like, oh, who's the bearded guy? Does he say anything? I don't know what she said, but I'm assuming it was important. You're 6 years older than me. I could actually be an uncle. I could be an uncle. I could have a really older brother. I also loves her dad jokes. It's the best way. It's the best way.
I don't know how you sleep.
I don't like it when people say I have a dad bod, though. I don't have a dad bod. It's more of a father figure. She needs to stop eating the insects. It's weird.
Welcome to Lake Knot City.
Just have an uncle look. You know what they say? Uncle bod is the new dad bod. Do they? Does anybody say that? I don't think anybody says that. That's not a thing.
Let's go.
Fucking stop it, would you? Both. These jokes are too much. They're not. They're not. Flemish. Not all my jokes are dad jokes. They only become dad jokes whenever the punchline is apparent. I know someone who's only 3 years younger than her aunt. I know people who are older than their uncles as well. The amount of times fragile offshoot bug is alarming in this game. It's weird and it's creepy and I don't want any. Never stop. Folks at work love them. No, they do not. Folks at work do not love my dad jokes. The parent gets worse when she offshoot crabs. Hey! That sequence gives me an aneurysm. My uncle and my great uncle were in the same class at school. Ah, nice.
In the meantime, I've got some business.
I could believe it. I have an auntie only 2 years older than me. I don't have any aunties or uncles that are close to my age. They're all a few decades older. Is this all my stuff? Is this my stuff? It's all my stuff. It's mine. Mine. Can't have any. Fucking there's loads of stuff here. Right, we're kind of getting heavy here. How many times have you comedically taken too much stuff? Quite often. Quite often, and I don't normally realize it until it gets a stage where I'm over-encumbered. Overwhelmed. I just finished Scream 7, good show. Is that the new one? I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. I'm not shocked. Oh, there's more stuff. No! More stuff! Oh, there's stuff over there too. Emergency gas fuel. It's the 7th to be exact. Right, okay. The wheels apparently are locked, not the actual door. The feckin' wheels. I can't lift any more stuff. Where? Lake Knot City. Ask not what Lake Knot can do for you, but what you can not for Lake Knot. I fucking love the music in this game. The other day, and my only gripe is that Lee Crowded was the director, not The Mummy. Was it any good though? Was it a good show? Did the mummy hang down? I think it's a female mummy, isn't it though? Or am I mixing up with the Tom Cruise one? Oh, Attack on Titan wall, nice. Really liked it. It was just Evil Dead Rise, but in Egypt. Oh, right, okay. Tom Cruise's mummy hangs down. That was supposed to be the start of like a monster cinematic universe, and just because it flopped so badly, because the dong flopped so badly, it just never took off. I mean, Evil Dead Rise was great. You will say that though. If you have to ask, you're not ready to find out. You're too young, Flemish, you're too young. We can't have your innocent eyes see the dawn. Flemish has innocent eyes. You cannot be looking at the dawn wrong. Right, can I make a delivery? Yes. If they didn't start with the mummy, that monster ranch could have been... Yeah, start with Dracula or something. Something that's really going to kick it off. There was so many similar beats. And constantly filled me with dread. Where's this boy getting on my grill. S tier yet again. Invisible man, but no backstory of him becoming invisible. Just have people talk to nothing, and don't even cast anybody for the actor. Just have them talking to nothing. Or cast John Cena, and just don't make him invisible. Just make it that nobody can see him, but we can just see him walking about as John Cena. I'd have gone for more good for Jekyll and Hyde or Wolfman. Yeah. Just hat and a string. No, just have John Cena. And just don't even, no CGI, nothing, just don't even make him invisible. Just have him walking around and nobody sees him, and just have him every now and then going like that. Cairo Network. You're a Cairo Network?
Finally made it past Ground Zero, Sam.
John Cena as a visual man, be fucking brilliant movie. It'll be wild funny, wouldn't it? And that, he doesn't even know he's invisible, he just thinks everyone's a dick and they're ignoring him. In front of people not acknowledge him, even though he's right there in his face. Yeah, I know. Shows up in mirrors and everything.
Bridges doesn't have the resources to link up the remaining city. We need to...
The situation has changed dramatically. The destruction of Middle Knot in particular forced us to adapt. It's like Amelie said. We don't have the time or resources.
Like some sort of reverse vampire. Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
That's why we've taken our only recourse.
Takes a special kind of person.
And then whenever he's not on screen, everyone acknowledges that he is there, they're just ignoring him. And he thinks he's invisible. It's like, do you ever see Mystery Man? And Kel from Kenan and Kel's in it, and he's the invisible boy. But he can only turn invisible when nobody's looking at him. Great film, phenomenal film. Just kind of like that. He's all invisible. Can you turn invisible? Yeah, but only when nobody's looking at me.
Nothing. I can't blame her for wanting one. He took everything from her and then some. Time heals some wounds, but not hers. The work ahead won't be simple or easy, but it needs doing. Get some rest.
That's not just a socially awkward human. It's a ginger. Best Dracula film is Dracula Dead and Loving. Oh, that was good. Leslie Nielsen. Mel Brooks can do no wrong. I'm interested in these Spaceballs. I know that Mel Brooks is like being held together with cell tape now at the moment, like, but Van Helsing. Oh no, the Hugh Jackman one. No, the Dracula Dead and Loving one. Dead and Loving It with Mel Brooks.
Here.
For me?
The Hugh Jackman one.
It's called a
That was an interesting film.
It means
It was
knot in
awful,
other words.
but
You can also use it to
it
kill
was
stuff. I had a knot
it was
in my
interesting to watch.
Okay.
One of my
Then
favorite movies
I
ever.
add another knot
Good
every
choice.
time I see you.
Good choice. Kill her now, boy. This is why you're good people. I have a soft spot for Hugh Jackman, though. It's terrible, but I enjoy how terrible it is. I made Hugh Jackman cry once, so I have to be nice to him.
I made it for you.
Nick Cage Dracula was great too. Oh, yeah, I remember that one, the kind of modern one where it's, what do you call his friend? Kate Beckinsale and Leather, Van Helsing, 10 out of 10.
Something to eat?
Mina, you're in the closet.
Why are you here?
Ask your boss man.
No. I mean, why are you here?
Got a delivery for Porter.
That's me.
You're gonna need this on the road ahead. This will ID you as an associate of Fragile Express. It's woven from my blood and chiral crystals.
Well, that's kind of weird.
Kind of bond.
Can you not just, like, I don't know, give me a card or something, or
Won't give you trouble so long as you
send an email?
We were
Renfield, that was the phone. Yeah, I was familiar. That was actually good. I enjoyed that.
territory. Until Higgs fucked it all up. Me, the Express, our reputation, all of it.
And now you want to fuck him back.
Whee!
On your own.
Hated Renfield though. The actor or the phone? So it put me off that. Oh, right, okay. I didn't mind him on it. That Cage was very good in it.
Port Knot City, next to your bed. So far apart, yet somehow we keep.
What do you call the one with
all that BT
Jamie Foxx, Dave Franco? That was good.
Yet here I am.
I just don't.
Here I
It
am.
was well done, but hated. Ah, right, okay.
You can use the beach?
I have a beach. You've got yours. I've got mine.
Son of a beach.
I use it to jump across space.
Like he was great in Fury Road. Yeah, true.
I can't conjure up BTs the way Higgs can, but I can go after him, chase him to the beach. Problem is, everyone's got their own way in. I'm only allowed to pass through the beach I know and understand. I'm sure you've heard the term multiverse.
Marvel. It's confirmed.
You alright?
The jumps take a lot out of me.
Fury Road is one of my top 5 movies of all time. Ooh, it is a great film. You do get them films. You get ones that you just like to watch just because they're comforting, because you like them, because they're just,
But if you're dead set on it,
you know what's going to happen, but you just enjoy it.
sooner or later.
Look, I make deliveries, killing monsters and terrorists.
They witness me should have hung down. Well, Mush, are you okay? Are them Scotch eggs affecting you weird?
I could use my power to help you.
Jump stick a lot out of me.
We don't have
Then
to
why
be
do it so
on
frivolously?
the same side.
It's Army of Darkness for me.
Send you.
Where are the turtles?
Blanche!
Where are they?
Any place connected.
What is happening, Uncle Flange? What is the story?
What do you expect in return?
Just goes in to reveal it. My God, Jesus Christ, what is wrong with you?
I expect
Well, Mush, what is the matter with you?
Here. Call it an incentive.
Uncle Flange, what is the story? Have you been playing Master Zelda anymore? She is terrible. I hated this Fragile character so much in this game. She is terrible. A lot of it down to the actress for me. I don't mind her. I think she's alright.
This will keep us connected.
Can you shut up? Pure and Armored Jokers are great because they're easy watching. A late one of Leorc's night. Just realized, yeah, I'm just about to wrap up here myself. It's kind of one of them ones where it's kind of stuck in cutscenes for a wee bit, but you know what? I didn't mind it. I enjoyed it. Starting to get a bit tired now, though, so I'm going to see about raid night. I wish see what cool people we have online at the moment. Go over our raid targets and see if we can bring anybody up. But thank you so much. Thank you for the raids as well, folks. Thanks for everybody coming on and chatting. These are all absolute legends. Got some garden on the day. Cleaned the barbecue. Had a barbecue. Played some Magic the Gathering. Flange, that sounds fucking amazing. I'm going to go and live in your house. Let's say there's only one mode, and that's Leslie. It's like Sean Connery. You never played Sean Connery in films. It's drab mode. She has no range. She'd be grand. She's the range of a slug. Jesus, these are fucking brutal. These are fucking brutal. Right, so nothing else come up in that one. So let's hop into. I would normally raid Blaheen, but we've raided her quite a bit, so I'm going to pick someone else tonight. I'm just going to see who else is live. I keep doing it. I keep clicking on Final Fantasy 14 every time I'm trying to click on my browser, which is a bit of a nuisance. Glad we can bond over this, over the hit. James Lee's live, but we raided him the other night. Let's see who we got. Oh, we've Gav. Gav's live. What's Gav playing? I'm glad we looked down the rest of our list as well, just whilst I'm here. See what other cool people are online at the moment. Beep, boop, boop, beep, boop, 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 beep, boop, boop, boop. No, we're going to raid Gav. He has played Among Us with a few other people. Gav, if you don't know him, is a lovely, lovely fella. Really, really quickly made partner. Met him through Mike and all. Mike and Kai, he very, very quickly made partner on Twitch as well, which was absolutely mental. But there's Zendaya. Which one is worse? Yeah, I was going to say Gav's Live. Good shout. Great minds. Simpatico. So what we're going to do is drop on a wee raid message as well. I'm going to start this raid off. If you could pop on and say hello to Gav, he is a wonderful human being. And even just drop him a wee follow, say hello, and then head on. That'll be much appreciated. I will be back on Wednesday night. Don't know whether to play Monster Hunter or Neo, but we'll see anyway. We'll see what the crack is. And I will catch you fine folks then. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Dreams collide, a fairy tale unfolds.